All right, we're live. Gonna wait a couple of seconds for folks to come in and hope you all are doing well with your bees and your bee season is going good. It is crazy here. It is May the 14th, and we are in the middle of our peak flow. Blackberry blossom still going, tulip poplars finishing up. Privet is just now starting here. We have a lot of things going on. We're not really feeding. Even our little hives that all haven't for I don't know 2 to 3 weeks. And the big guys are filling the supers up and catching a couple swarms here and there. Busy time of the year. Hey, Dominican beekeeper. Thanks for coming on again. Hope you're doing good down in the deep south, the deep, deep south. All right, Canada. So we're going from one extreme to the other. Awesome. Jason and Jason. All right, Brian. Hey, everybody. All right, so go ahead and hit me with some questions if you have some. Yasmin, all right. You're Han all the way from Sweden. Hope you're doing good. Ohio, here come the questions and all the things. Oh, the Superman shirt. This used to be my thing. Back when I was a kid, for whatever reason, I got Superman. My brother got Batman, so I got Superman stuff. Well, once I became a beekeeper, I very, very seldom ever get anything but bee stuff. So yeah, this was cool to get. Kind of made me chuckle because I used to really have a lot of Superman stuff. The recent Supermans have kind of put me off the whole Superman thing, though. I grew up on the old Supermans. All right, Oregon, North Idaho. So one thing I wanted to say real quick while everybody just came in, and for those who are watching this on the recap, next week, Friday, will be a live chat. It'll be a special live chat. I've never had one like this before. And it'll be at 7 p.m. I'm not going to spoil the surprise, but it will be different than anything I've had in the past. It'll be fun. So I hope you're able to make it if you can. Zach Heinzelman, Hawaii. No wonder. I mean, he's on here. I mean, in Hawaii, the bees just work and bring the honey in. They don't even need flow hives in Hawaii. They're just like, hey, do you want me to drop it in the bucket over here or what? And that's beekeeping. No, Zach, are you caught up on all those queens? I'd say not. Too much honey over there. Yeah, nothing better to do, not like you go to the beach. So Gus Mitchell has got a question. What's been your experience with 48-hour cells? So last year, okay, so you said just tried out 48-hour cells and after having some issues with cut down on capped cells. All right. So Bob did a great video series on that at our first Hive Life conference. We talked over that with Kent and I tried it out, but I didn't video it. I had part of it filmed, and honestly, Bob Benning did such a good job on the video, and I had so many other things going on. I'm like, Bob can just drop the microphone. But Natalie also did a video on that and did a really good job as well. Ultimately, what we found is that the bees did halfway decent if the nuke was very, pretty strong. Really felt like something that was three good frames of bees did a good job finishing the cell out and getting a pretty good return rate on them. Smaller nucleus colonies did not do as well, and that's what Bob found out, and that's what I discovered as well. And I just prefer cap cells personally. It's not that much more work. I got an incubator, and you know that, Gus, but um, that's kind of the way I feel about it. I just like them capped. The California beekeepers on. All right. Hey, Jose, Northern California, made alive. Finally, a day off. A day off. What are you? Actually, I took some time off this week as well. So that felt really good. Took the kids to the lake. Um, yeah, it was needed. Yeah, guys, look at Bob's video on the 48-hour trial he did. Really good video. All right, getting scrolling back up to some questions. Queenless nuke, too old to try another cell. Paper combine or just shake them into a hive. good question, Tracy. This time of the year with a honey flow, you might even be able to get away with shaking them into a hive, but I still don't do it. What I would do is if I have hives that are close to the ground or even 10 inches off or so, you can make a ramp or something and shake them at the bottom of the ramp, and they will work their way up into the colony. And I prefer it that way, or doing a paper combine. Paper combine works very good too. The only time that I usually shake bees in is when I'm shaking a lot of nurse bees in, and that they get along with everybody. Occasionally there'll be a worker bee or two in there, but when there's a flow going on, bees merge together really well. They're so busy and preoccupied with the work, they don't really check you at the door much. So what you can get away with during a honey flow and what you can get away with during robbing season or a dearth is pretty different. But that's kind of what I would do. Good question. Athens, Tennessee. Hey, one thing I wanted to say for you Tennesseans and maybe folks nearby, tomorrow in the evening at 2 p.m., I will be at the Nashville Area Beekeepers Association. I'm speaking on splitting bees and a few other odds and ends. And so if you're in that region and want to say hey, it'll be at the Ellington Ag Center there in Nashville. Okay. Had a hive I forgot to treat for mites, had a 25 count treated, and too late. They left, and the hive got overrun by small hive beetles. I reduced to a nuke, froze frames, added Dronicum. I've had that happen in the past too. That's a high mite count, and these days, I really try to focus on that and keep it as low as possible for fear of reinfecting my other bees, possibly due to that. But it happens. I mean, it's happened to me more than once. So you would not believe all the things that I got sent just today from people saying, asking me questions or things that, man, I'm behind on swarming or I'm behind on this or that, or splitting. I didn't do this and I wish I would have. But basically, most mistakes that you have made and you're kicking yourself over, I've made them at least once or twice. So I can relate it. It's part of the learning process. The goal is to not repeat those mistakes. Kind of like a foundationless. Um, mm, I guess not. Brian, I don't see anything like that at all. The super stickers or anything, if there is any. Um, so if I've missed something from you, Brian, like usual, I do appreciate it, but don't feel like you have to, man. But no, I'm not seeing anything on this end. All right, scrolling back up to some questions. Hi from Eastern Ontario. Just wondering if you were going to do any videos in the experimental yard this year. We'll love to hear some results of my control with the different products. Yes, actually, I was talking to a guy about that today and how I've got the data here. I've got to just make a compilation video, and I apologize. I've really done a bad job of kind of putting it to the side. First was the conference in the way, and now we're into bee season and all that stuff. But I've got the information. I did release the oxalic acid, but I still got the thiamol, the control group, and the formic to give you all. And we're already working on this year's stuff. I do have help this year, though. And so this year, legally, we'll be able to use the oxalic acid pads. We'll be comparing that to a control group, and Apivar and thymol is the goal on that. So I'm most curious about the Apivar and the oxalic acid extended release and the Swedish sponges. But yes, I will work on that as soon as possible. My dad today, it's like, Cayman, do you have time to talk? And I hope my mom's not watching because, well, if she hears it, it's just the truth. I just don't have time for anybody right now. Um, he's like, I just want to talk to you. I haven't talked to you in a while, and I just don't have a lot of free time. And they're wanting me to play softball with them, the church team and all that stuff. And I love sports. extremely competitive. That's the problem, though. Um, is I like too many things, I think. So I really want to do that, but I can't. And I've got too many things going on right now. I've got some, between all the videos and all that stuff. But thankfully, I've got some reliable, trustworthy help for the experimental yard this year, and the data, they'll be handling all of that for me. And it's going to, all I got to do is manage the bees. Super, super, super thankful for the Columbia Beekeepers Association in Tennessee, and especially Dick Brickner, who's the president of that club, and does a lot of good for Tennessee beekeepers. If you're in the area of Columbia, Tennessee, they have one of the better clubs in the state. It's a good club, a lot of good hardcore members. But yes, you will see videos and you will see information. Nature Sweet Bees. I apologize it's taken this long. I was looking at it just the other day. We got 84% off of thymol. It performed the best out of the group. The oxalic acid performed the worst besides the control group, which out of the control group, I'm pretty sure we lost all but 3 out of the control group checking them, like in January. So, but they didn't get any treatments at all. They got the same feed and all that stuff, but out of 13 colonies, we only had 3 left. Now, one of those perished prior to the season getting late. They just never requeened themselves. And then the formic acid was just a little bit below the thymol. It performed really good. It was like just barely below 80%. It was like 79 point something. So the thymol performed the best for me. Formic was not too far off, and I'll have all the data. And of course, there's variables. And one thing I want to say with the information as I share that, the what I'm doing is not conclusive of anything. It's just we're trying to get averages. If I can get some results and compare that to what's going on with Randy and the University of Florida, maybe we can draw some common denominators. Anyways, back to questions. How about making a cell builder like Michael Palmer? Oh, I've made cell builders like Michael Palmer, and I have buddies that do it too. It's one of the, if you're wanting to raise top notch queens, it's a fantastic way to do it. Um, Michael Palmer's method of raising queens requires a lot of bee power, but it works really good. Question: do new plastic foundations need to be coated with wax? You mentioned you had coated yours in a video a couple months ago. Great question. So, it depends on where you get them from. I'm really skeptical of a couple brands of foundation, and a lot depends on, are you getting single coated, double coated, triple coated? And each company's definition of that will vary. Now, I prefer Premier and Acorn Foundation. I have used other brands and had success though. Ul- Ultimately, the biggest factor in success is a good beeswax coat and bees in a position with enough energy through nectar or feeding to be able to draw that. So, what I found though with Right Cell, which is Man Lake's brand, it's the single coat. If it's a strong flow and the bees are strong, they'll draw it out really good. But if they take their time about it, they don't draw it out super good because it's so thin. And the bees, if they get bored for a little bit, they'll chip away at the beeswax, and it's just so thin. And a lot of times they'll draw the middle of it out, and they won't work the edges of it unless it's a strong flow with strong bees. I've never used their double wax before, but I don't like their single coat. So I'm recoating a lot of those. And as foundations get older, the beeswax can dry out and get brittle. A lot depends on how it's stored and how much wax is on there. And also, the quality of the wax is a big difference. I don't know what all these companies are using, but there is a difference between the waxes that they use. If when you use, like in my wax melting video, the capping wax, that is definitely better, lighter wax, higher quality wax. It's more tacky and sticky, where some lower quality waxes are less so. And you want a wax that's a little bit more malleable so the bees can use it and move it around a little bit. So, Premier's heavy wax, which is their single coat, in my opinion, is about double the thickness of this single coat right cell based on what I've looked at. And it smells a lot stronger and a lot better than the right cell. So the acorn has also done really good for me. Now, Date, I don't touch that stuff. It's made in China, and all these other brands, as far as I know, are made in the USA. And the Chinese are notorious for diluting down their beeswax coatings with a certain percentage of paraffin. Is that the case? I don't know. Could be pure Chinese beeswax. Maybe they didn't waxes it after they get it here, but uh, I don't. The only time you really need to coat it is if it's old or if it's a really poor coat. But I've never coated Acorn or Premier. It always does really good out of the box. What would cause the colony to completely empty the hive? Well, typically disease, viruses, heat can cause the colony to abscond. Definitely in the summer months, if they don't have enough ventilation and the colony is really strong and they just can't control the temperature of the colony, they'll abandon brood and resources and everything and just abscond. And it's not like a swarm where they leave bees behind in a swarm cell; they're just right on out. Most of the times that I see bees that have cleared out of a hive, though, it's in fall when the viruses have gotten into the bees and riddled them, and bees are programmed as they are sickly to a certain degree, they will chuck themselves out of the hive, and as the virus just spreads through quickly, they just right on out, and they can leave honey behind, brood, and sometimes even the queen with a handful of bees. Do you check a hive for mites before you graft? I don't. What I typically do is make a queenless starter, or if I do make a starter, I'll have a starter and a finisher. My starter will have calved brood originally, but it'll go into a period of where there's no brood, and then I can use a treatment like oxalic acid or any product essentially and get a heavy kill on that colony. But you definitely need to have a colony that does not have a lot of mites to raise your cells. You definitely don't want viruses already permeating through the bees. They won't raise cells good anyways, but it just makes you wonder how much viruses or other things that we don't know about could be affecting not only queen quality, but in the colonies that have the drones, drone fertility. There's a lot of stuff we don't know. When in doubt, nuke them out. That's how I go about it. Hey, Steve Chubb, thanks for commenting and for watching the videos. We do appreciate it. Big guys use 51% beeswax and 49% paraffin. Save that money. I like beeswax myself. It is more expensive though. I don't need any paraffin on my honey, thank you. Cayman, have you heard of the Digital Hives, a Swedish project? I have not, Yasmin. Well, maybe I have. Is it like it looks like almost an electric box that you have for like well, we have them here in the United States or the transformer box or whatever. Is that what it looks like? Maybe you'll have to send me a link or something like that. Yeah, I like thymol as well. Hey, Houston. Uh, Sylvia. Yeah, Sylvia. Okay. Good to see you as well. Hope you guys are doing down there in the South. Yeah, Brian, I don't see it. Sorry about that, man. I'll have Laura look into why maybe that's not working today. I have no clue. Question from Jose. I had a buddy ask me, how do you stop a hive from swarming? Seen it happen and close the entrance. Now what? The only way that I know to deal with it um, is if they go back in the hive, I've got to find that queen. If you can get the queen and put her in a cage, you've stopped swarming, and they might leave without her, but they'll come right back. But then, as soon as a virgin hatches out of a cell, they'll go with that. So once they've capped a queen cell, we've made a split. We do everything that we can to not let it get to that point, but essentially. when we see capped cells, if they have not swarmed already, we hunt the queen down, find her, then we'll make a split. And usually, what we'll do is just take a bunch of bees, say 3 pounds worth of bees out of the colony, shake them into a jester nuke box, queens in a cage, take them to another yard, shake them onto some foundation, and give them a little bit of feed and let the queen come on out in that. And then the colony now is that we took them from is queenless. And if we wanted to, we could let them raise a cell. The only issue is I typically cut them down because if the colony is still strong and there's a good flow, they sometimes still swarm when those virgins come out. It just there a lot of it depends on colony strength and conditions. And I have my own queens like you do, who's Jose. So I just go ahead and make them queenless for a little while until that swarm tendency gets out of their system. And but that's just the way I do it. It's probably not the best way. I have a lane worker colony with a large population. What should I do with them? If you have another colony that's healthy and strong, I would combine it with that colony. Um, Paper combine and just have a bigger colony. And then what I would do is if you're wanting to get reclaim that number of colonies that you had, buy a queen. And when that comes in, go to that extra big colony you combine them to, take off some brood, shake some bees in there, and they'll accept the queen much better because you're giving them a young population of bees. And that's how you'll get that and keep those numbers up. That's what I would do. I hate introducing queens into a laying worker colony, big population or no. The only thing I will do in an early stage of laying worker is if I see it starting, there's a good population. First of all, any frames that they've laid in, I take them and yank them because I don't want that to turn into drone brood. And they take those worker combs and widen them out into drone comb. But so I take those out, but I'll drop a queen cell if it's early on. And a lot of times a queen cell will work and they'll accept that queen and she'll go out and mate and a lot of times come back and lay. But I have access to queen cells in the spring. And if you don't have access to that, I just say combine them, buy a queen and split them later. Go ahead. Okay. Well, I just can't see anything. That's weird. Okay. I love technology. It's consistently inconsistent. All right. Adam Holmes, have a hive making tons of honey, three mediums filled above the brood box. Should I add an undrawn waxed frames on top or put it above the brood box? So if you have the time, then yes, foundation is better having it down towards the brood chamber. But a lot of times, like what I'll do is I'll stick three mediums of drawn comb onto a colony. And then I feel like if that's good, but maybe I want a little bit of extra, I'll put a box of foundation up on top of that as I'm walking through. And if if I don't get to it fast enough, sometimes they'll start drawing it a little bit. But it is best to have it down there on the excluder or down next to the brood chamber if possible. But I don't make any extra effort. If I'm already down there at the brood nest, then I'll put that foundation next to it. But if I'm not going down there, I'm not going to make a specific, especially if they've got that much weight. Three mediums full of honey. I have no desire to lift any more of that stuff than I have to. What is the best mix of feed to give to a new package? Just sucrose, which sucrose would be white table sugar. You can get it from Walmart. You can get it from Domino. You want the refined stuff that does not have mineral content. And as far as ratio goes, this time of the year, early on, a 1 to 1, 1 pound of water to 1 pound of sugar is best. There are feed additives out there. I get asked this all the time. Some of them may work good. They're expensive and they may work good. It's not that they do work good always. They can help the syrup not ferment quite as quick, But I personally, unless somebody sends me some to try out, I get sent a lot of product, and a lot of it never makes the YouTube channel because I'm afraid that if I do a video on it, even if I don't like it, people will still buy it anyways. Or somebody thinks I'm actually recommending a company that I'm not. And that's just kind of a dilemma that I felt like I've been in the last couple months more than I have in the past. Is I'm getting a lot of companies either wanting to send me product or have sent me product, and they say just give us an honest review, but my honest review on some of their stuff is not going to be pretty. And it's not that I'm going to get ugly about it, but it's just the products are bad, real bad. And some of these products are pretty good. So I have one group of friends that are telling me stay out of the review side of YouTube, and I have some people saying that I should do it, just be honest and all that kind of stuff. And it's hard because some of these guys are my friends, and now with the conference, I'm in discussion with about 50 to 60 different vendors right now, and I can't make a darn video these days without if I promoting somebody and either see me whether I mean to or not, taking maybe business away from another company. So it's getting a little tedious, and I'm not really enjoying that. People wanting me to, but ultimately, this is kind of the decision I've come to, and if you guys have any suggestions, I'd love to hear them. Is that before I put on a Hive Life conference, before I had a YouTube channel, I was, just a beekeeper, and that's it. And I'd like to think that I'm still that. And I want to know still what are the best products out there. If I go get a bee suit, which ones are the best bang for the buck? Which tool is going to work the best? Which feed supplement? And I don't have all the answers to those things, but I would like to discover and find out. And because there's a lot of bogus products in beekeeping, a lot of snake oil, those kind of things. So I want to tread carefully, but at the same time, it's getting a little tedious here because I feel like if I prop up one friend, this other company is going to be ticked off now. So it's going to be an interesting experience. All right, I got a $10 donation from Laurel Reynolds. Man, what a hottie! I tell you, women are just throwing themselves at me these days. And wow. What are you doing later, Laurel? Am I in trouble? How am I in trouble for that? It's hard to know what to do. See, I just don't know what to do. Oh, you're just trying to see if it worked? Oh, well, it does. It's worked very well, Laurel. You've got my attention. I'm in trouble, everybody. All right, I'll get back to beekeeping questions. With a heart emoji. That's right. Uh, let's see. Best type of hive, Western European bees, black bees, no brands, but type for newbies. Best type of hive, Western European bees, so black bees. I really don't know much about hive and hive availability out there in Europe, Conrad. I really don't even know much about the companies in Europe. I'm trying to learn what I can, but I I couldn't even give you a half rate review on the options. I do like the Langstroth boxes we have here, but there's other hives that work really good. And also, you have to consider resale potential and availability. Julian says, "Hey, from England, do you breed for docile bees? You guys in America seem to have much nicer bees than here." Well, we have some guys down here that have some really aggressive bees, and I have a couple hives that always like to staple my socks to my ankles. So, we have some hot bees here too, but I do breed for gentle bees. I mean, there are bees that get ugly and they get out of the gene pool really fast. So, I want to say our bees are extra, extra docile, but they are definitely docile. And I have guys not too far away from me that have some of the meanest son of a guns that I've ever been around. Hey, James McNally. All right, driving across Alberta, listening. All right, I appreciate that, James. I'm actually using your queen grafting stand, and it's awesome. I should have a video on that pretty soon. It really makes it a lot easier to get consistent visuals into the cells. Do you check the queen starter for mites? I already got to that one. Sorry. Hey, Richard. Thank you so much. Zach, I'm not even going to answer that question on the pollen trap. You and I can talk about your shenanigans on the phone. Can you pollen trap the urge to swarm away? I don't know if that's possible in Hawaii, Zach. You guys get way too much pollen up over there. Plastic foundation versus beeswax foundation. I find that the bees prefer beeswax foundation or starter strips compared to plastic foundation, even with rolling fresh wax on them. I've done foundationless, I've done starter strips, I have done foundation of wax, plastic, and ultimately, strong beets with plenty of nutrition um, draw really quickly. I would tend to say if you go with the lesser quality foundations that have thin coats, you will find that yes, they will draw wax foundation faster or starter strips faster. However, if the plastic foundation has a really good beeswax coat and it's fresh, it's got to be close to the same, really close. The biggest problem I have with wax foundation is if you don't wire it in, then it will buckle, especially on the deeps. And still the same with the mediums. Like if I throw a medium on that's not wired in, like cross wired, they'll have wires going down, but if it's not cross wired, some of them will buckle in the heat that we'll get in May. And when the bees draw them out, they'll be curved, and it makes it a little bit of a pain to extract and sometimes pull them out and stuff. So I'm a big fan of the plastic foundation, but I mean, wax foundation works really well. I mean, there's no question about that. It's just very labor intensive. And it's one of my least favorite things to do. I hate wiring in foundation. All right, so Tin Sean says, "Do you still catch swarms?" I do if they're mine or they just happen to be like right on the way to a bee yard and somebody calls me up that I know. But typically, I do not chase swarms. I don't have time for it. I can make my own splits, and I really enjoyed that a lot more. I know when I'm splitting my bees, I know where the queen's coming from. Some swarms are great. Some swarms stink. I feel like I get a lot more consistency with my own stuff, and I love creating my own bees. And but I will catch my own swarms when I can. I was 30 feet up in a hickory tree last week. Ill advised, I know, but I like tree climbing. Texas friendly beekeepers, how late do you graft in Tennessee? So I can graft real late in the season. I've grafted as late as the end of August, but you don't get very high quality queens. The quality and the acceptance rate is not near as good. There's just not as many drones. It's doable, but typically I like to stop grafting after July. It can be done, but I don't like to graft before April, and I stop in July. Can you push the seasons? Absolutely, but you're gonna have to work extra hard and do some things a little bit differently. I'm a new beekeeper getting my hives next week. I'm looking at supplements for the syrup to really boost production of comb. Have you tried Apis Biologics Biocontrol, and what are your thoughts on it? Ah, okay. So this is actually a product that I'm excited about. Doesn't mean that it's great, but I'm excited about this. So we already talked a little bit about supplement. So if it's Honeybee Healthy or Man Lake's sort of version, Pro Health, or if we're talking Hive Alive's feed supplement, and there's probably one or two other ones out there. Why do we have those? What do they mimic? Honeybee Healthy and Pro Health really don't seem to do that much, in my opinion. They keep the syrup from fermenting, but there's a lot of things that you can do to keep the syrup from fermenting that are a lot cheaper. And lemongrass, essential oils, all these additives, they don't mimic nectar. And typically, what I find is the more that we mimic what nature does, the better off we are. Enter in Apis biologics, biocontrol, which is formulated based off of research done on nectar over several years. And Ian Stepler has been testing it out in his Canadian yards for a few years. Now, I'm going to be testing it out this year. Maybe it's great, maybe it's not. I'm very skeptical of these products. However, I talked to the guy who owns and designed made the product, and he seems really cool. He doesn't seem he's not making any outlandish claims, which is nice for a change. And when it comes to like those other supplements I mentioned, like Honeybee Healthy and stuff, they're just stimulants. And if you actually test them out yourself, a lot of beekeepers have started doing this. You just open feed 1 to 1 without and 1 to 1 with Honeybee Healthy, and you find that there is no stimulation really. Bees tend to actually clear the stuff without the additives faster than with it. I know a lot of people won't agree with that, but I wonder sometimes how vetted these products are. So, anyways, Apis Biologics has a lot of actually, natural, minute amounts of proteins and vitamins and different things that nectar has in it, and trying to mimic that as much as possible. Will it be awesome? Time will tell. I'm gonna be trying it out this year in two of my yards, 20 colonies apiece. So I'll have 40 with, 40 without, and I'll be testing it during my dearth period. So I should be able to see, I think, a pretty good test on how well it works. The fact that Ian Stepler uses it is a plus, and he likes the product. Ian is, yeah, he's just not. He's always whining about things. So if he, we have a little bit of a history there. So just FYI, if Ian's not whining about it, I'm very curious. And Ian's a killer beekeeper, so I'm very interested to try that out. But we'll see how it works. I'm excited. And it, again, mimicking nectar sound makes a whole lot more sense to me. One more thing along that whole nutritional line, since we're already on it, there's a company that I don't believe is in business anymore, Hive Alive. You guys might remember I did some videos on the algae patties, and I said from the get go that I'm testing these out. I don't know if they work, but so many people still bought them anyways, just because I did videos on them. And I said that I don't know if they work, but a lot of people still purchase them. It was they claimed everything from Varroa control to 100% small hive beetle reduction to better this, better that, better that. I've never fed a worse patty in my life. The whole goal of feeding the pollen patty is to stimulate the bees. And the thymol and the essential oils in there, my belief, suppressed pheromone production so much in the colony that the efficiency of the bees doing their jobs went down. I'm feeding a patty to stimulate brood production and colony health. And I noticed in every colony that I did it compared to those without that, yeah, they were consuming them, but the brood production was actually going down. I didn't like it at all. And yeah, the small hive beetles wouldn't eat it as readily, but um, why feed something? Yeah, it doesn't matter if the small hive beetles won't eat it. It's not doing what it's supposed to. And snake oil is what that was. Oh yeah, I forgot about that $10 donation from Laurel. Oh yeah. Lots of questions. I got a lot to catch up on. You can review things personally without telling YouTube you're doing it. If you find something good, tell us. Um, okay. Well, and I appreciate the feedback on all that stuff about the doing the reviews. I want to do things to help the industry. There's some products right now that I feel like a lot of people are buying and they're paying a lot of money for them. And there's a product over here that's made a lot better and they could pay either the same amount and sometimes even less money. and they'll get a better product. And you know what happens? Okay. Oh, I really want to tell you this, but I think I'm going to put it off to later. There is innovation fixing to come into the market, and it's solely built on competition, healthy competition. I'm so excited. It should be out in the next month. Is it your birthday, Cayman? No, it's not my birthday. It's a long ways from that. What's what's your opinion on two frame nukes to make hives when you only have a couple of hives? I don't like the little two frame nukes because when the bees can fit in them, they're weak, and when they're growing past them, they're swarming out of them. I mean, all at one frame of brood. If you have it 75% full of capped brood on both sides, that is going to already occupy more space than what two frames can handle. I don't like anything under a three frame deep in a cavity size for raising, for mating queens, for starting splits. I just feel like a three frame size is the smallest I want to go. I really feel like it helps the cluster dynamics, gives you a little more time as a beekeeper. That doesn't mean you can't make two frame nukes work, but the smaller your nukes, the more TLC you will have to give them. A lot more tedious. A lot of comments I'm just now getting to. Sorry. When do you stop adding supers? I'm out of drawn comb and need some premier mediums drawn. Well, Jason, if you watch that video where I'm dropping foundations in between to help get some of those drawn, you can do that. And so basically, if, let's say you have two mediums of comb per hive. Well, go into them and take a few combs out of each one and put some foundations in between if they haven't, already filled up all of those combs yet. And you can then have another box on top that's partially comb and foundations, and then put another box on top of that that's foundations. And once they start working in that first box, that's, or even the bottom box, if you have two foundations in the center, like that video I just had recently, um, on having two foundations in the middle of the combs, even if they just start drawing those a little bit, if you come back, take those suckers out and then stick them in a box of foundations, they will draw that box of foundations so much faster once they start drawing it. It's having combs to give them relief is the big deal. Because if they hit that foundation and have nowhere to go with the nectar, it goes down into the brood nest. But if they have combs on the side that they can put it into, and then take the excess and start drawing the foundation, you've got a winner right there. So a combination of the two of those could get you to where you're getting those new combs drawn without causing swarming. It takes a little bit more getting into the hives to get foundation drawn that way, but I think it's worth it. Our carnies okay in the heat gets to be 100 plus degrees here. I mean, we get that occasionally here, high humidity. My bees do really good, but we don't, get 100-degree weather like all the time, like they do in parts of Arizona or anything like that. I think carnies are good bees. I think Italians or carnies would probably do good in that weather, given a good queen and plenty of nutrition and low mites. Is it harder to get virgin queens mated in summer compared to the spring? Last year, I had a hard time getting new queens to come back from mating flights. It depends on what your summer's like. Here in late summer, yes, the percentages go down, and but drone there's fewer drones, nutrition goes down, robbing is going on. There's just more pressure all the way around. And one thing you have to consider, Terry, in a lot of areas, is many creatures like yellow jackets, robber flies, assassin bugs, other types of predators that will prey on either queens or other bees. European hornets that we have here in the United States, all of those things start off extremely small early in spring, but by mid to late summer have grown to a lot larger populations, dragonflies, all those things. So there's more predators later in the season. So you have more stress from nutrition, more predator pressure, yes, late season queens are harder to get higher percentage takes here in Tennessee. But in some places, hey, July is peak honey season. So it just really depends to a degree where you're at. Hey, Cayman, after watching your wax melter video, I'm curious what your favorite use of beeswax is besides coating foundation. So, Andrew, I don't have a lot of time for a lot of the side projects. I still have a bunch of wax to melt because we've been putting it off to the side for a couple years. I knew one day I would get a nicer system, but I just didn't have the time for it. And when I was driving a truck, I didn't have time to focus on, rendering wax and putting money into that, and then taking the time to make candles, and a lot of things. Now, one thing we did take the time for is lip balms. You can make lip balms, very, very good ones. Use your own beeswax. They're awesome. Way better than Burt's Bees, at least as they are now. And so I like beeswax for that. I do like beeswax candles. I love the smell of them. Beeswax candles actually purify your air, where paraffin, a lot of these candles that you buy with all these crazy scents. I mean, oh, who knows what we're doing to ourselves. I'm allergic to a lot of that stuff. I know I'm sensitive and weak, but I am. And if as far as beeswax goes, I don't use it a lot. I really don't. One of these days, I hope to have the time to do more with it, but I just don't have the time. All right. Good day, Cayman. We're here in Melbourne, Australia. My wife and I enjoy your live chat Q&A so much. Keep up the good work. Hey, thanks for commenting from down under, and I hope you guys are having a great or had a great season. I guess you guys are a little bit opposite of what we are here, but I really appreciate you chiming in. One of these days, I'm going to come down there to Australia and learn about some beekeeping down there. Be quite a bit of fun. My wife and I love critters in Australia. Well, you guys got some critters down there. Yeah, this guy says I'm going foundationless, but they do draw a lot of drone comb. That is true, and it does work. You can totally do foundationless, and but you do get a higher percentage of drone comb. There's a lot of people when I got into it that said that you don't, bees only keep a certain percentage and all that jazz. I did not find that to be the case. I didn't find that to be the case at all. But it still works, and it's okay. They're definitely a lot easier if you're wanting to. If beeswax is something you want to sell and render down, it's a lot easier to just cut off a foundationless comb and melt it down. What barrels besides stainless steel can I use for honey storage? So there's a lot of food grade buckets out there. They have food grade liners. Some of them are plastic liners. Some of them are food grade paint, where they're metal barrels, but they're painted on the inside with food grade paint. So there are multiple options out there. Stainless steel is always my favorite. It's always very expensive, but the barrels that I have are painted, and on the ones that are old and it's chipping, then we do use a plastic liner for those barrels. Hmm. I was sorting combs from dead outs today. Will the bees use or clean out last year's pollen frames? Most of the time they will. Sometimes if it gets a little hard and stuff, they'll just entomb the pollen. But most of the time they'll just chuck out that old, well, bee bread. Technically, they'll chuck out that bee bread, and you'll see it all over the bottom boards after you stick them in. But I mean, it should be fine. Just don't let them get rained on or anything, because what happens sometimes is they get a rain on them, and then mold will grow in them, and that mold will spread into the wax and weaken the wax and damage it to the point where the bees will grab it and chuck it all out. And with plastic foundation or wax, then you're down to no wax on plastic, or just with wax foundation, no wax at all. So James McNally says, anything show up from UPS? I if you're talking to me about that, James McNally, I have not had anything from UPS, beekeeping related in a little while. So hopefully nothing's lost if it's supposed to be coming this way. Hmm. Have you ever tried the pre-drawn comb foundation that is being sold? So, Anthony, good question. That's, I believe, you're referring to Better Comb, and a friend of mine, Dan Bees and Frederick Dunn, both have tried that out. Other people have as well. They both have good videos on it. It needs to be wired in, so you need to be able to get some wires down into it because it will sag and heat. And I have not tried it, but I do trust both of those guys. And it's not beeswax. It's very similar as far as they've made it atomically very similar to beeswax to mimic it as much as they can. I find it a really fascinating product. It's a little well, it's expensive, but you can use it for brood, and I hear it works really good for brood comb. Never tried it before. I wouldn't want to have my honey stored in it though and extract from them. I don't think that'd be a good idea. Yeah, I'm sure it can be done. Richard Noel made a comment that it's better to just scrape out old pollen frames. True. Maybe if you have excess combs, I don't know. Maybe if it's completely full, and I know in Hawaii, they have so much pollen. It depends on where you're at. I think if I remember, you're not too far, in the region from me, Triton, WR, but I could be wrong. And I don't. In Hawaii, if they get so much pollen, they'll actually soak it in water and soften it up and they have ways of trying to get bee bread out of comb so bees can use the comb for laying in because they just bring in so much pollen, they just never end up using it because the seasons just keep going and going, especially if you move your bees on the big island. It's just one pollen flow to the next. Um, Troubles in paradise, I tell you. No sympathy from me in in August, we're just begging for pollen. Um, but I have no issue reusing it. That's just my personal opinion. I'm sure Richard has his reasons, might be different from mine. Michael, so you asked about a Tennessee guy that has a YouTube channel. For me, there's a follow, can't find him. So there's a tall, skinny guy, 30-year beekeeper. You're probably talking about Duck River Honey, I would say. Um, Ah, his name just went right out of my head. But yeah, Duck River Honey's probably who you're talking about, I would say, Michael. Hmm. Okay. Essential oils. What oils? The essential ones. uh, the European black bees is nice, but um, they can turn sour and angry. We try to have the same sort of bees as the neighbors. I have Buckfast and Carney's Swedish Beekeeper. One of these days, I will come over there, Yasmin. I want to see the bees that you guys have over there. I want to see some of those dark black bees, and I just see some of the differences. I bet they're more similar than we think, but I'm still really anxious to experience that. Silver Gorilla rocket fuel. Yeah, that's what that Ian calls that Apis biologics. Is can he says I like my rocket fuel, so I've dubbed it as its nickname, the Canadian rocket fuel. We'll have to see if it lives up to his name. And what Canadians call rocket fuel and we call rocket fuel down here in Tennessee could be two different things. Um, can you checkerboard with foundation? My bees seem to just pull out the established frames. I don't checkerboard with foundation unless it's with other foundation that's partially drawn. So bees draw foundations better in the center of the colony than they do towards the edge. So as if they draw out the center ones like 50% of the way or more, I will take those as long as there's not brood on them because you don't want to chill any brood. And I will work those to the edges, and then bring those from the edges towards the center. And I will move them around like that. But as far as actually checkerboarding foundation into the brood nest, I don't do that. If I'm going to put foundation in a brood chamber, it's going to be towards the end of the brood nest and not in the center of it. That's just the way I do. I don't like breaking up the brood nest anymore. If I do, it's going to be with a comb for sure. How much splitting can we do with one strong hive? Well, it depends on how long your season is, how strong your flows are. But here in Tennessee, if I was to split my colonies as fast as I wanted here, and not go for honey, I could take my colonies in March if I could get some early queens, get some like early April queens, and you have to order those suckers probably in December, maybe earlier. But I could take a strong double deep in late March, early April, and break that into four pieces. So I've got four hives now. Now those are four good nukes with two frames of brood or more each. If I can get two frames of brood each with a good bit of bees and a good queen is in each one of those, now I'm able to split those again. A lot depends on if I have comb. If I have comb, it's a heck of a lot quicker than if they have to draw a foundation. But two frames of bees that have it drawn comb quickly or you give them comb, two frames should be 30, I think 34,000 bees within a little under 2 months, just barely under 2 months. Under ideal conditions, that means a great queen, no nutritional issues at all. Got to have plenty of nutrition and all those things going forward. So, and then at that point, you can split them all again. So, but you don't want to overstretch it. You see a lot of new beekeepers, and I used to do this a lot too. They push the season. I used to split a lot in late August, early September, and I would get some of those bees to survive, but the percentages weren't super good. I try not to split after July, and I'll try to get most of my splitting done before late July, as early as possible, and keep it manageable. Don't overstretch your bees. You want good, strong clusters going through winter, especially if you are in a northern area with a short season and a long winter. Happy birthday, everybody. What's that, Laurel? Are Amish beehives from Galena Farms good? I've never ordered from them, so I don't know, Sean. Some of the Amish boxes are good. Oh, okay. Sorry, I skipped past that. I never saw the birthday thing. It just jumped like crazy far. That is so weird. However, as far as the Amish beehives go, the biggest problem I have with the Amish is they never answer my phone calls. Sorry. Uh, is the fact that they often don't use kiln dried wood, and you get boxes that when they shrink down can be up to an eighth off, and that adds to more burr comb between frames and stuff. It's not the end of the world, but I really like my equipment to be accurate. And Bob Benny got some equipment from the Amish not too long ago to try out, and then he sent it back and got some more, and he's been very as frustrated as Bob can get because they just cannot build anything accurately. And the Amish really don't care to. They'll sell it either way. But it's good stuff, and for the money you get it. If you can get it from the Amish, it's probably cheaper than the Galena store, I'd say. But then you have to get them on send them a letter. Okay, so a lot of birthdays and stuff. Happy birthday, everybody! All right. So, question from Nick. This is something that I would have probably told you a different answer to 4 or 5 years ago. Can I save a frame of pollen for the freezer and put it on them next year? You can, but even in the freezer, pollen loses a lot of its nutritional value over time. Pollen does not store well long term, even as bee bread. So, will they use it to a degree? Maybe so, but nutritionally, it'll be inferior. I try to use my pollen as quickly as I can afterwards. Uh, Jed, so you like that Amish joke, huh? That was not one of my best. All right, why can't you use beeswax to dip hives? Because beeswax has a melting point that's too low, and in summer sun, it will come out of the boxes. Also, on the atomic level, Um, some waxes, like paraffin's terrible to dip your boxes in of itself because it's single chained, and some waxes are like that. And that's why when I dip our boxes, it is with paraffin and microcrystalline, which is multi-chained, and that really locks itself into the box a whole lot better. Also, the melting point of paraffin and microcrystallines, like the blend that I've used, is like almost 170 degrees, which is like 30 degrees higher than beeswax, and it stays in the box in the wood a lot much better. So it's a combination of things. Beeswax. That's one of the things. Like I get asked this question a lot, especially right now, about Hoover beehives and what do I think about them. Well, first of all, they're Chinese wood, so I don't like the fact that they're cutting trees down in China and shipping them over here, and we're buying Chinese wood and not American wood. I also don't like the fact that they're selling them as wax dip boxes because it's kind of false advertising to a degree on your expectations. Because wax dip boxes are known to last a long time when they're cooked in them for like 15 plus minutes. They can last decades if done correctly. They literally take their boxes, dip them in, and yank them out. And there's a lot of reports that the wax is coming off within a year's time of that. And it's just an exterior dip. It's not getting the wood's not getting hot enough to absorb that. You basically have to force the oxygen in the whatever water is in the boxes, and then a vacuum's created and it sucks the wax in. But that you can't do that in a minute or two. So and I had someone the other day ask, and I haven't got back to their email if we're going to have Hoover hives at the Hive Life conference, and the answer is no. As far as I know, we will not have any Chinese boxes at our conference. Okay. Wow. Okay. A lot of good questions tonight, and lots of them. I hear Jimmy likes cheese, but what is your daughter like? Oh, all the things kids like: ice cream, um, candy. As far as unique things she likes, unfortunately, Kathleen is a little bit more like her daddy. I'm not this way anymore due to necessity, but she's a little bit of a picky eater. And Jimmy, well, he's kind of like Mikey. He'll eat anything. uh, yeah, Jimmy's the cheese boy though, but he's wearing me out on the grocery bill, that boy. Oh, by the way, Brian, I meant to get back to you on that. Thanks. I don't know what happened if that first one didn't go through or what. I can look into that when I get off, but man, I do really appreciate you donating yet again to our channel and the support you've been over the years. And you know how to get a hold of me if you have any questions. All right. Any thoughts about vertical zigzag checkerboarding? So I'm not like a crazy guru when it comes to checkerboarding or anything like that. I haven't felt like it's necessary. Um, when I want to pull a colony back, I feel like, oh man, this colony's getting too strong. We just go in there and we pull brood out and we drop some comb in. That's one of the perks of having a lot of comb. But I don't go in there and have like Walt Wright did, who was in Tennessee. You have like plans, and at this time we go in and we pull out this many combs, and then we drop this many in these certain locations. No, I don't do that. A lot of times I will pull out, a frame of brood and shake a couple frames of bees or two frames of brood if I feel like it. Shake a couple frames off, and then I will drop in some combs towards the edge. I don't really like to put a lot of times in the brood nest, and they'll do is they'll just take bee bread and nectar and put that towards the edge and clear out that brood space for the queen. So it works out either way. If bees have an opportunity to keep the brood nest clear, they'll do it. The thing of it is doing it before they need it. That's staying ahead of the bees. That's the secret. All right. Hmm. Came out a queen hatch, and she has been walking around for 3+ weeks without laying. I don't think she got mated. Will she still go out, or is it too late? Kevin, it's too late at this point. Queens have a biological time clock, and after a certain period, I want to say it's 2 weeks or maybe a little bit more than that. Zach, do you know about this? Um, and they just won't, after a certain point they'll just become drone layers, or what they'll do is they'll lay and the bees realize the eggs aren't quite right, and they'll just cannibalize the eggs behind her. And so I would cut your losses on that colony at this point. So you found a place out of Washington state with a sub 200 vaporizer. So what's a sub 200 vaporizer? um if you don't mind clarifying that, Walker, I probably should know what that is. Do you endorse feeding bees snake oil? It might be, snake oil might be more beneficial than some of the stuff that they sell us. Bruce Bees, yeah, it was the. Did I say Hive Alive? I hope not. I think I did. Everything sounds so similar in this industry, so I apologize. It's healthy bees. If I actually said Hive Alive. Now I did try the Hive Alive patties, and I was impressed with those. They're expensive, but the bees consumed very good. They're just a global patty with Hive Alive additives in them. But the healthy bees was the algae patty, and I did not like those at all. Expensive, a lot of false advertising. Um, yeah, it's a bad product, and the problem is, I've been in beekeeping for 20 years. I've been susceptible to some of these products over the years, blowing money on things, trying things out, new things, and it seems like there's so many of these companies that come in and they don't care if the product is tested real good or even if it works or not. They just want your money. I don't like that very much. There's plenty of opportunity for those who are willing to make a good quality product to be successful. Obviously, it's more work than throwing a couple, you know, tail of newt and wing of bat into something with a lemongrass and saying that it attracts bees. But at the same time, there's a lot of opportunity. I'd like to point out an example. So, Rob Pollock with the Laura B vaporizer. I mean, he just started his business less than 2 years ago. The guy is considered, kind of a household name now in the vaporizer industry, and does a good job, and keeps the vaporizer market pretty competitive. And kudos to him. I remember when he approached me and approached Bruce's Bees about doing videos on his vaporizers, and I'm sure Bruce told him something similar. But I told Rob, I said, man, it's a good product and everything, but you're going to have to be able to keep up. If I do a video on this, you've got to keep up with demand. I'm not talking one or two vaporizers a week. And he sold 1,000 in a little over a year, I believe, which is great for our industry because some companies are feeling the heat, and the competition is getting good. It's getting really good. I'm excited to share with you what I is going to be coming on in that. A lot of upheaval in the bee industry in a good way. Some of it I am sworn to secrecy and can't tell you, but there's a lot of moving and shaking going on in the bee industry right now, and the consumers should be getting a lot more access to cool products on the road down the road. Okay, Mark Foley. Hey, Mark, thanks again for donating to our YouTube channel. And if you have any questions, leave them. If you already have, I missed it, and just leave one at the bottom. I'll try to find it and get to it. Appreciate your support for what we do. Okay. Tony Mountcastle, need to get more deep frames for splits, all plastic frames versus wooden frames with plastic foundation. So he's asking, do I want all plastic frames, plastic everything, or do I want wood with plastic? That's really personal preference. I really prefer wooden frames with plastic foundation. I like the feel of them better. They don't slide around as much. And I don't like frames sliding around on me. Like, for example, if I set one if I'm holding one in trying to grab the queen off and I set that frame down on other frames, plastic slides like you would not believe, where the wooden frames don't slide as much. Also, if I break an ear off of a wooden frame, you can, get a frame repair kit for about 40 to 50 cents or a dollar if you get them from Man Lake. Uh, I should keep my mouth shut. Um, but you can repair those frames where the plastic, now the plastics don't break that easily, but I have broke a few of those before. The plastics work great. As long as they have a good beeswax coat, they work great. It's really personal preference. Hmm. Bill Blackman. Wax came off my Hoover hive in the first summer. Won't buy again. Yeah, it's really a bummer. Um, all they do got to do is just be honest about it. Um, but yeah, it's frustrating. There's a lot of stuff. I see it all the time on Facebook. These sponsored ads. There's this new company called Vivor or whatever Vivor, that's selling these cheap extractors and all this stuff. I highly recommend you be very careful with these things. There's ads out there showing my videos and stuff where I'm recommending the product where they pirated my stuff. You have to be very careful. If it's even looks like it's Chinese, be very careful because even if the product is halfway decent, do you think that company, most of them, like you see these companies come and they're gone within 2 years? What if you need a part for something? The customer service doesn't exist a lot of times. And then the resale value for you is gone. Um, and the customer service is just it doesn't exist with some of those companies. So I be very careful. Tractor Supply and a lot of these places, these companies don't know beekeeping. There's a lot of good companies, and at our conference, to name off a few, I'm going to brag on a couple here. Dogwood Ridge, great company, good service. Miller Bee Supply, um, Hilco does a really good job. There's so many others that were there as well. I mean, I could go down the list, but most of the companies that are at our conference were really good as far as general bee equipment and stuff like that. Equipment built really well, and you get follow up. Okay, good deal, Brian. Thanks for getting back with me on that. Hey, Josh Hager, I'm going to see you tomorrow at the Nashville Area Beekeepers Association. That should be fun. Yeah, tomorrow at 2 p.m. I better know these things, right? I'm supposed to be speaking. At 2 p.m. I'll be speaking at the Nashville Area Beekeepers Association. So that should be interesting. So Tristan Osborne says, "How full are your honey supers?" So right now, my average colonies have filled up one medium, completely full, and could extract those if I took the time to get them out. And I'm not doing that. And some of them have done two, and some of them are 1.5. But good colonies are well on their way on two, and we're just now beginning the start of privet flow here. Got a good rain this evening, so I'm hoping that'll contribute to some good nectar. Okay, I'll have to look into that Walker Bee Ranch. It's always interesting to see more products out on the market, vaporizers, or anything that'll kill mites. I love any products that kill mites. That's for sure. Okay, Scott, good feedback on the Vivo. The Vivo. I'm pretty sure that the one I was talking about actually is a VE something or another, but there's several companies out there. Um, and I don't keep track. I mean, they come and they go. Yeah, Cobra Strike. Maybe you'll have to make a custom excluder or something like that for that. Some queens cross honey frames. Some queens won't, some will. Usually, it's the best queens that do. They're like, I have just got to get rid of these eggs. Um, but it's awesome that that colony is big, and maybe you won't be able to harvest quite as much honey, but sounds like an awesome colony you got going there in your horizontal hive. Yeah, Kelly's didn't really have an option, Andrew. As far as Man Lake buying them out, I think it was bankruptcy or Man Lake buying them out, from what I understand. And it's unfortunate. Kelly's could have been a totally different story. And Man Lake should have never had the opportunity to do what they did. So these people that tell me that I should stay out of the review industry and weighing products versus products, and I'm really not trying to take a side with the beekeeper side and just, hey, this product is better, or these are the pros and these are the cons and you decide. I mean, that's basically what they are. But we need to be informed because the industry hasn't taken very good care of itself. Man Lake was able to swoop in, buy out Brushy Mountain, Kelly's. Now, granted, Brushy Mountain and Kelly's both were mismanaged because the companies that bought them out or ran them stank. Didn't run a business right. And Man Lake bought up Shastina Millworks and Stromberg's and other companies as well. And so we're left with what we have. And but what did Dadant do this entire period? What has Dadant been doing the last 20 years of my beekeeping? Barely anything. I mean, it's like they're in a bed in a coma or something like that. I mean, they're still alive, but sometimes you want to check for a pulse. And I'm concerned about Dadant. I mean, not like I'm gonna cry if Dadant goes under, but they just don't look like a company that wants to compete and stay in business. And they've had all kinds of opportunity to compete against Man Lake and have just let it slip through their fingers. No innovation. It's the industry is not very healthy right now. I was talking to I was talking to Cowan, and he said there's a sickness in the industry right now, and he's right. And so it's exciting to see young companies come in and innovate and create new products. And I'm seeing more of that in the last 2 years than I saw in the previous 18. Exciting time. And the more we put our money in the right areas, the more we are going to see that. I have no doubt. Todd Prater, Kamon, go over your Apogard treatment timeline again, please. So I try to get my supers off as quickly as possible. So this year we're delayed on the bloom. So it could be July before I get my supers off, but I try to get them off as soon as the honey flow is done. Get them off so I can treat as fast as possible. I want to get those mites while they're low, and then I will do Apogard 30 grams. So they recommend you can do this. It's part of their program as well, but their main treatment regime is 50 grams, come back, and then apply 50 grams later, which I believe is 2 weeks later by the label. However, if it's hot, you can use 30 grams and do smaller dosages. So I usually do 33 grams, 33 grams, 33 grams a week apart. And then I come back in August, do alcohol washes, see where we're at on the mite loads, and if I need to, treat again. Sometimes it's just spot treating. Data, that's this is where it's really difficult. I've got Tasha with the Kentucky branch of Data has always been very nice to me. She's tried to do she tried to come to our conference last year, and they yanked it out from under her, and she'd already spent money on certain things to be able to come. I had $17,000 in pre-orders for Dadant on extraction equipment and stuff, and Dadant just said, you know what, we've decided we're not going to do that this year. That's Dadant's attitude, but Tasha's been awesome. Same thing with Kelly's. Like when I call Kelly's up, I Jennifer's the supervisor over there. She's great. And then whenever I call to order something, I call Brittany Buster. So by the way, if you need anything from Man Lake, I don't buy from them a lot, but when I do, I call Brittany Buster up at the Kelly's facility in Clarkson because she actually knows bee stuff. What a novelty. Um, but yeah, Brittany though, and if you ask her about me, she treats me like I'm her little brother. I mean, I've never had an older sister, but Brittany's the closest thing as I've ever had to it. Gosh, she picks on me. All right. Best starter honey extractor. Oh, That's a hard one. I'll give you a couple options because I think it depends on what you want and what your goals are for the future. So if you're starting out and you're just wanting to keep your operation around 5 to 10 hives, it's really hard to beat some of the Chinese extractors from Hilco. A little bit of those extractors is assembled here in the United States, but they are Chinese extractors. However, one thing I've got to give hats off to John is he forces those guys to innovate those extractors, and for foreign extractors, they do really good. So those, if I was going to go the Chinese route, that would be where I would go. And John actually has really good customer service. It's one thing I like about Hilco is even if it's foreign on the stuff that is foreign that they sell, you get the customer service with it. So I really like the 20 frame datant that I started with. It is like $2,500 now. So that's not a really good starter extractor. When I purchased it, it was like $1,300, which is still a lot. But the resale value, I sold the thing for like almost as much as I paid for it. So you got to think of resale value. Datant has some smaller extractors. Thorn Manufacturing has extractors now, but I don't think they have any like entry level ones yet. So right now it's just the 20 and 36 frame extractors. Probably look into a small datant if you're wanting quality and made in the US. Some of the smaller license a good company. The Hilco ones are good. Don't go for the cheap stuff online. Amazon stuff like that. No customer service and feedback most of the time with those guys. And you want something that you can, because if you upgrade past this, you want resale value. Oh, you want 100 hives? Okay. The 20 frame datant or a 20 frame thorn would be your best option because you can get a 20 frame datant and 20 frame thorn, and you can fit 36 mediums in that sucker at a time. Same, there's other ones out there, 33 frame license, all right. Um, but if I'm looking at an extractor that big, I'm going to go American made, and because I'm looking at a long term investment with 100 hives, and I'm also looking at resale value one day. Yeah, the 30 frame license is a pretty good extractor, I've been told. Yeah, I forgot about Maxon. I keep forgetting about Maxon. They don't produce much product these days, and it's a really big disappointment. I talked to Rossman, Hat Bee Acres, talked to Honeybee Connection. So many companies that used to sell Maxon equipment that can't even get a single unit anymore because for whatever reason Maxon is struggling. I don't know if they're going to make it. They may, and I hope that they do. We need American companies over here, but Maxent is looking really fragile right now, and they do make some heavy duty equipment, but ultimately they got to be able to get it out the door. I actually was trying to get a wax melter built from Maxent, and it it just was not going to happen in any foreseeable future. Over even if I waited over a year, they're just they're up the creek, and I'm not sure they have any paddles. Hmm. Yeah, Better Bee's a good company. I've heard Blue Sky is really good. I haven't dealt with them much, but they seem to have very good customer service. I like Better Bee, and because they innovate a lot too. Again, our money's got to go into areas that innovate. It has to if we want to get better things. In my village in Australia, we have a life-size cardboard cutout of you at our grocery store welcoming people in. I seriously doubt that, but if it's true, or even if it's someone that just looks similar to me, you can take a picture and send it to Tennessee's Bees, and I'll be the judge of how awesome that guy looks. Coming to small hive beetle season in Maryland, have you ever tried the Swiffer sheets for small hive beetles? I have. I think the Dynamax towels work a little bit better. Some Swiffer, um, I've heard works better than others. The Swiffer sheets work pretty good, but I prefer the Dynamax. I think they work a little bit better. It won't. It'll help chip away at their numbers, but just like almost everything with small hive beetles, it's just a matter of keeping them low. Um, Nothing that I know of eradicates them all, and so you just have to have healthy bees. All it takes is five female beetles to lay up thousands and thousands of larvae in your hive and slime it out. So it's a matter of just keeping it a little bit easier for your bees to control and help reduce the amount of beetles that can lay eggs in the pollen patties if you feed those. Do you treat in the spring too? So I treat 2 to 3 times with oxalic acid vapor in December. And when it's 40 degrees Fahrenheit or above, that cleans them up. Oxalic acid doesn't work super good when there's brood in the colony. Actually, it works very poorly when there's a lot of brood. So when my bees are broodless in December, hit them, boom, 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 and get it really low. And then I don't treat again until I pull honey supers off. It doesn't, but if you feel like you need to. And one thing I've looked into is maybe doing formic acid. I think I'm going to try it out next year. Is take about 20 colonies and do formic acid right before our flow starts when the temperature is still cool enough to use it and just knock the mites back. They should be low at that point due to the oxalic acid, but just knock them back down to almost nothing. And then when I come out of the honey flow, do alcohol washes and compare that where I'm at. Varroa control is all about keeping them low. It makes a big difference in colony performance, how they consume nutrition, everything. And the beetles literally attack the beetles. The Varroa mites attack them where they live. They attract them nutritionally, autoimmune. I mean, everything that you don't want. And so keeping those mites low, like in the 1% area, it, and crushing them before they get to like twos and especially 3, 4, 5% infestations, it's a huge difference. Most of the treatments are not going to give you 90 plus percent kill on average. That's one thing I think we're finding more and more with testing. So but if you're getting 80% kill on a 1% infestation, then that's great. You don't even have half a percent. You don't even have a quarter percent of infestation. But if you have a 4 or 5% infestation, you get 80%. Then that's going to buy you some time. But within a couple months, you're in critical areas again, and that's not good to overwinter like that. So it's about keeping them low, and your bees will thank you for it. Great queens, dead mites, and good nutrition. You do those things, and then swarming is going to be your next problem. Yeah, picture it's not true. Cayman, give Northern Ireland a shout out. All right. Well, Northern Ireland, I was talking to Hive Alive actually just yesterday. I don't know if they're in Northern Ireland, but I was talking to some Irish guys over there. And it's pretty interesting conversation talking to them about their product. They're planning to be at our conference this year and interested to learn a little bit more about Irish beekeeping. And many of us Americans wonder if Irish whiskey helps control Varroa levels. Still waiting to hear back on that one. Joshua Rogers, why do new package colonies make supersedure queen cells? Not all of them do, but the problem is sometimes, especially big package companies, some are better than others, but they're raising hundreds of thousands of queens, which require millions of drones. And they're doing it early in the season. So some of these queens don't get mated properly, and the bees can detect that. And what they'll often do is let the queen lay just long enough to get a little bit of offspring going, and then they'll raise a supersedure cell. They're trying to replace that queen, and until they do replace that queen, that colony is going to just not do super hot. If let's say it's a 5 frame nuke size that you have right now and they're trying to supersede, probably let them. But if they have multiple cells on multiple frames, take half of them and make a split with the cell. Take the other half and have them with the cell, and you have two chances of getting a queen to come back. You might end up with two queens, but if you only end up with one, now you've got typically a very well mated queen. You just combine the bees back together and you're off to the races as long as they have nutrition. The 6 frame poly nuke from Blue Sky Bee Supply is I love it to raise queens in, especially early in the season. Early April, we'll get some really cold nights. That insulation is awesome, and then it's got the ventilation underneath the screen. So for the hot days in summer, between the insulation and the screen bottom board, it's great to raise queen cells in. I like it. Yeah, that's one thing about like a Max and a lot of those quality American made smaller extractors is the resale value on those is good, and they're in high demand. You can move them pretty easy. Yeah, I wish Walter T. Kelly would have been the same. Walter T. Kelly was the company that I ordered my stuff from as well, Richard. When I was getting into beekeeping, I went up there and they still had the ladies and some gentlemen, but mostly ladies that were working sewing bee suits, making their veils. They had the wax where they made their wax foundation. It was a system designed by Walter T. Kelly himself. They were making all their own boxes up there. They don't make boxes in at Clarkson anymore. Man Lake gets them mass produced somewhere else, where they are run by a bunch of cross-eyed engineers and then ship them to Clarkson. And what's unfortunate is still there's several people that work at Kelly's that remember the good old days from Walter T. Kelly. I'm telling you what, if Walter T. Kelly was still alive, he would torch Man Lake. I mean, they just couldn't keep up with him on competition. But he was a beekeeper. He understood their needs and he created products for beekeepers. Unfortunately, when he perished, um, just due to old age, it was taken over. It was given to, I believe, the hospital locally, and they didn't know anything about running a beekeeping business. And he did it as a generous thing to help them. Walter T. Kelly was very generous, and he was very opinionated and hard nosed, but also very generous. And man, I just think that he would take most companies to the woodshed. There's a couple companies on the rise though that might be the next coming of Walter T. Kelly. I've got my money on a company. How hot or cold is too much for the plastic Pro Nuke? So I don't know what the threshold is. I know they have changed the plastic a little bit in the Pro Nukes. I would be very careful with the Pro Nukes in a very hot climate, especially if it's humid and in full sun. There's been a lot of commercial beekeepers get very upset at Pro Nukes because they're like a little greenhouse, and bees will abscond if it gets really hot, especially um, in the southern states, or in like western states, Arizona, um, California gets really darn hot. I prefer the jesters, but there are a lot of people that use the Pro Nukes. You just got to be careful, and then they have been known to be very brittle. Man, I need a haircut. Just haven't had time. They're prone to be very brittle when you strap them down. So for some commercial guys, don't like them for that reason. They you strap them down at 30-degree weather, which let me tell you, moving bees in 30-degree weather is pretty nice. Um, and the bees stay clustered. Overheating is where you a lot of times run into trouble with moving bees or lack of ventilation. So cool weather is great, but then the plastic would crack under the stress of the strap tightening, whereas the jesters are a whole lot more forgiving. Yeah, Australia does not have varroa mites at this point, Chris. They're very, very fortunate. So, Chris, another Chris from Kentucky is asking, when and where is the conference? Our conference is January 6th and 7th. Both of those days are full days. But we also this year are going to have the 5th as a bonus evening that it'll be in the vendor area. The vendors will have like 2 acres of space, and we're going to fill it up. It's going to be it's going to be massive. Last year was pretty massive. You can see some of the videos on it on YouTube, but we're going to dwarf that by I think threefold. and definitely have the best deals in the country on product. Our goal is to be for you to be able to, if you can drive and buy a lot of product, you can pay for your ticket with the savings that you would get at our conference. We have a lot of great deals on everything from plastic foundation, wooden boxes, feed supplements, all kinds of stuff, pollen patties, that stuff. So, plus you get it on Thursday night. It'll just be a meet and greet, be in the vendor area, get an autograph from Bob Benny, the legend. Um, heckle me and Randy McCaffrey as we're probably getting scolded by our wives like we did this last year. Got to keep up, got to be consistent, and it's just gonna be great. Lots of cool stuff. We're gonna have four speakers from out of country coming. We're gonna have a lot of speakers within the United States too, as well. But I'm really trying to get some good dynamics, get some a speaker from the West Coast, get some Northern beekeepers, um, a couple Canadian beekeepers, East Coast, South. We're trying to get a broad amount of information out from these very successful beekeepers and educators so that whatever you need the most, you can get it at our conference. But yeah, January 6th and 7th in Sevierville, Tennessee. And there will be a lot of, for those who have come in the past, expect to see some improvements. The last year went pretty darn good. Not tooting my own horn, but it went better than I thought it would. I was freaking out. I lost probably a year of my life in December of last year. All I wanted for Christmas was for the conference to work out. Okay, let's see here. I'll be there. Yeah, I'll see you guys again. I've seen you guys. Um, thanks, guys, for coming the last couple years. It's going to be a lot more fun and definitely Thursday. I think will be. I'm looking forward to Thursday because I want to have time to chat with you guys more, and I'm also going to be getting a lot more help, and so I'll have more time to network with people and just say hello, those kind of things. Yeah, DC and his bees. Most of the beekeepers, he says, most of the beekeepers I have communicated with via YouTube have been great about helping me learn. It's exciting. We have a lot of good guys and gals on YouTube right now that not only are nice people, but they're really good at beekeeping. Um, there's a lot of people that I could recommend. My favorites are Bob, Benny, Ian Stepler. I really like Bruce Jean and Jose and the Stream team. Those guys are really nice as well. The University of Guelph. I know I'm missing some people. Richard Noel, Kamon Reynolds. He's okay. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, Laurel, I think, is dropping the ban hammer on somebody. Sorry about that. Glad you got rid of the Bama hat. No, no, I wear that all the time. This happens to be a ball cap for my brother's t-ball team. So they're actually the Tennessee's Bees is the name of the team who sponsored the shirt. So Laurel donated $10 to replace the bee shirt from the last live. Came and I saw two packages the way you showed. Man, what a difference. Nice not having a bazillion bees ugly at you for dumping them out. Yeah, John, the way that we install the packages that way, if as long as the temperatures aren't extremely cold, it is so much easier. Of course, you do have to have space in your hive for the package to sit in, and then you have to bring the frames back later. So that is an extra step. But to me, it's worth it. It's less stress on you. It's less stress on the bees. Whenever we can, especially with packages, the less we disturb them, the less stress they go through. I feel like it's a good idea. Laurel donated $10 towards that haircut. Amen to that. I just don't have time. We worked almost 13 hours in bees the other day. It was actually not too bad of a day. I enjoyed myself quite a bit. Bees making lots of honey, good weather. Do you have any Irish blood? I actually have more Scottish than Irish blood. I do have some Irish blood. Um, we dropped the Mick when we came over from Europe. I do know that. We've got some redheads in the family. Um, However, I have never done one of those genealogy things. Um, Technically, I'm part Native American too. My grandmother was 50% on one side, and the other one was almost that much on the other side. And so does that? And Laurel actually, she's more Native. Does Laurel look Native American to you? She's just white. She's white. I mean, but she's got the high cheekbones. She's fixing to come in here and beat me. Um, However, she had enough of it on her side of the family, and her sister looks like she definitely is part Native American or whatever, and could claim for status, be part of the tribe or in North Carolina or whatever that is. I don't understand how that works, but um, I told her we should have done it for the tax benefits, but she said that was not going to happen. Yeah, the hospital in Leachfield, that's right. Hey, Cayman just moved 2 5-frame nukes into 8-frame boxes. All frames have drawn comb. We're in a strong nectar flow. Do you think I need to feed 2? New hives seem to have very good stores. If they're in a strong nectar flow, I wouldn't. But come back, Chip, and just really 5 to 7 days after you move them in. Come in 7 days after you stick them in and see what they're doing. If it's real strong, they definitely won't be needing any feed. You'll see whitening of the wax. Of course, you'll see poundage being added in the edge combs. And if it's a strong flow, you may need to add, especially if they're good 5-frame nukes. You may need to add another box fairly soon. Better early than late. Hey, C.S. Steinbuck, and thanks for complimenting me on my talk at the Dixon County Bee Club. That was a really fun and interactive bee club. I thought that was a lot of fun. Definitely looking forward to Nashville. I haven't been to the Nashville club in oh goodness, before I married Laurel, so 13 years or so. When you run out of the little cards that come with the green tubs of thymol, what do you use? Index cards. Yeah, yeah, just these little index cards. I actually kind of like them a little bit better because the Apagard cards, they don't like to chew up and spit out of the hive, where they will do that to these a whole lot more readily. And then I can write little messages of how much I love varroa mites on here. Um, I'll write little funny things on them, but when I have the time. But yeah, the index cards work great for the Apagard thymol gel. So music, Fanatic, the conference. When is the conference being held? January 6th, 7th, and 8th of 2023 in Sevierville, Tennessee. And by the way, if I was talking to my website guy today, you will see over the next few weeks updates to our hivelifeconference.com website. There's not much on it right now, but we're restructuring it, and it's going to get a overhaul. And when we open up ticket sales for the first month, there is an opportunity to save a good bit on the tickets. Tell Okay. Okay, that is important. Yeah. All right. So there's been a lot of confusion with folks, and this has been an issue over the years. There is a website called Tennessee's Honeybees. That is not us. The only website that we have is Hive Life Conference. And my business is Tennessee's Bees LLC, which I might add was around first. Um, but some people end up going to this guy's site to resells packages and different things. And they think it's me that's getting ugly with them. It is not me. So if you're talking to somebody about buying bee equipment and all kinds of stuff, and you're not talking to me directly, um, like through my Tennessee's Bees email, And it's my email is Tennessee's with an S bees. If you send it to Tennessee bees, that's another beekeeper on the other side of the state. Whoops. Love to make it confusing. The website, I'm going to type it down below for you guys. It is a real simple. It is hivelifeconference.com. And I just put it down below and you will see the updates for that. And man, it's going to be awesome. Honey show. Everything's going to get a major upgrade and hoping to have some international honey this year. Sounds like there's a good possibility of that entering the competition. And I was talking to a company in Greece yesterday who is looking at bringing some of their products over from Greece. So, hoping to see a lot of products that are not commonly found in the United States so we can see, hey, is this something that we should try here? Or maybe it's something we definitely should not try here. Sometimes that can be pretty good. Can't imagine you getting ugly. Well, Caleb, imagine it. I don't like to be ugly, but I am an extreme dude and I like to be extremely goofy and fun. But when that's past that limit, it's ugly. I guess it's not as ugly as some people, but I don't like being that guy and I can get pretty mad. So I don't get that way very often. Laurel keeps me in check. What can I say? The thing that makes me more mad than anything else is mostly beekeeping related stuff in this industry. Either cons that are selling bad information or selling bad products, or people that just will not work. Man, I got livid at a conference. You show up to a hotel, you're bringing them all this business and stuff like that, and they mess things up for the third time, and they look at you like, "Ugh, here's a guy making me work again. Why is this guy walking in the room?" I sound like an old guy, and it seems like the more and more I do things like with the conference and the channel, Laurel's like, "You sound like a 60-year-old man." Well, I guess that's a good thing. I sound like my grandpa. Do your job. Hey, it's Steinthal Valley. I appreciate you guys yet again supporting what we do, and appreciated your support over the years. Hope you guys are having a good honey season this year. And if you have any questions, reach out to me, please. Thank you. You're all, you're all right. You can be an honorary Irishman. Sure. Why not? Anything goes nowadays, right? Oh goodness, I better shut up. That's right, casino money, cha-ching. The Hive Life Casino. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, so Chris Wright asked me kind of a question I don't get very often here. What got me into beekeeping? All right, so I'll keep it pretty quick. When let's start a little bit earlier. I've always been an outdoor guy. I love being outdoors. I don't want to be in an office. I don't want to be inside. I want to be outside and I want to do things. I love sports. I love swimming. I love hiking. I love all those things. I started gardening when I was about 12, 13 years old and stunk at that too, let me tell you. But by the time I was a teenager, 15, 16, I was doing some farmers markets on a pretty regular basis. I had a hives by 14, and then I was uh, really involved with doing a lot of the pastured poultry and processing a couple thousand birds a year and trucking them to Nashville and selling those. So, but what got me into beekeeping was I was looking at the businessman inside of me was like, I need a good product to sell. Honey is a product that you can sell it really good, and it's got some great aspects. It's got a awesome shelf life compared to like tomatoes and stuff. It's you don't have near as much competition because let's face it, beekeeping is a lot harder than chickens and eggs and tomatoes and squash and all those things. So if you can do it, then there's a lot of opportunities for you there, and it's true. And the education, let me tell you, was not what it is today. The education is 50 times better now than it was when I got into beekeeping. There was no access to Bob Benny's and Ian Stepler's and whatever we do here with product reviews and other guys as well. So things have changed entirely. But what got me into it was just I wanted to expand my farmers market into another product, and of course, it blew me away too. I saw bees as a little kid. I saw it at 13 at Fall Creek Falls, and I saw a guy at a sorghum festival. I was learning how to make sorghum, and a guy brought an observation hive and two types of honey. Tried those out, saw the bees. I'm like, I've got to have bees now. I was 14, had bees by that fall, and it has just been an addiction ever since. And originally, it was not. I want to make this a big part of my business, but it got to the point where I was like, chickens or bees, where are you going to go? And the bees made a lot more sense, and I liked it a lot more than chickens. That's pretty easy. And here we are. Never would have imagined we'd be in this situation. Pretty crazy. When is Laurel's video? Yeah, Laurel. I actually talked to her about that yesterday, so I've kind of given her a little bit of a idea of what type of video she needs to do, and she will be doing one. If it might be the last thing I ever get her to do, but it will happen, John. I don't know the exact date. We are slammed right now. I mean, I don't have time for this technically, but you just got to make some things happen. What is the name of the hotel connected to the conference building is Wilderness of the Smokies, and we will have as soon as possible that up as well, where we have hotel discounts for people. Some hotels offer better options than others. The Wilderness at the Smokies is attached, and you can walk or use a wheelchair just right straight on through without any staircases or anything like that. Can you watch the B conference online? So, Sean, we do have the videos available on Vimeo, and we do charge for those. It did cost us a lot of money to produce those, and we were hoping that it would break even. We're not even halfway there yet. So, we're looking at other options for the future on that. But yes, they are available. Um, you get everything, every topic, and it's very high quality, and it is like $65 for that. And if you come to the conference, it's dropped down to $30 for the entire session. Now, next year will be a better value if we choose to do it again, because we have double the speakers next year. This year we had one room going, and that was it. But next year we're going to have two rooms going, and that is going to give us a lot more opportunities for different topics and everything. Made the pollen patties that on your video, and the bees ate a pound within a week. Those are some good bees right there. If bees are eating like that, that means there's some good bees. Hey, Michael or Irwin, thanks for coming on. We'll see you later, man. Yeah, for those of you who came to the conference, you should have got a code sent to you for the discount on those videos if you are wanting those. Yeah, the videos did take too long to come out, Russell. That was part of the problem. In our defense, though, I'm running a bee business. I'm having to learn all this stuff as I go. I didn't even know Vimeo existed uh, before the conference this last year. Laurel may have. We didn't know how it worked. That was a whole circus trying to get that figured out. I had some issues. I didn't get some of the PowerPoints. This is a mistake I made. I did not demand the PowerPoints prior to the conference, and some of the speakers didn't get their PowerPoints to me till like early February, and then they had to be edited and everything like that. And yeah, there's a lot of things that we could do better, and we will. Yeah, email's not the best way to get a hold of me either. Um, For install my first package north of Arkansas, Ozark Mountains, how long should I wait to inspect? So if you just installed it, I want to come back in mm, 8 days, 9 days, something like that. Give them about a week or so to set up. They need some food though. So make sure that you're giving them food, even if you're in the middle of a flow early on. At least the first week, give them some food, especially if they're on foundation. They're going to need a lot to draw that foundation out. But come back in 8 days or something like that, and just do a light inspection. Make sure they're drawing comb out. The queen should be laying good at that point, and you should be seeing not only eggs but some little larvae. Hey, Cayman, in spring, do you start off with one full deep super on the brood box and then add more as the weeks go by, or what's the usual procedure? Thanks from Western Australia. All right, a lot of Aussies on tonight. So, in early spring, we go to double deeps, and it depends on what we're using them for. For honey production, we have dropped them down. Like we'll start with double deeps, and then drop them down to a single brood management for honey production. It does take a little bit more management to get them into that, but once they're in that, it does help to a degree, and you can produce a little bit more honey. Well, you can take more honey easily. Um, if we're making splits with hives, then we just keep them in double deeps. And once they start getting to where they're getting close to filling that double deep box, out of 20 frames, if there's 10 in each one, once they get to about 16, 17 frames strong, we split them again and knock them back. And it depends on if we're selling nukes or if we're making honey. Canadian Beekeeper's blog's on, but he just retracted his message. Oh, okay. So, hey, Ian, sorry you're having such a rough run of it up there. I hope things can improve for you guys and get things back on track to a degree. But things are going good down here. The honey flow so far has been really good. I don't know if we'll be as good as what we were last year. Last year was a very exceptional year, but so far this year is looking to be a good year, if nothing else. And we'll just have to see how the rest of the season unfolds. And really, the biggest issue that I'm having, which is not really something to complain about, is the Hive Life conference is taking so much of my time. It's making me a bad beekeeper. So I'm trying to do my best to manage my bees a little bit and condense the bee yards down. I'm going to try to condense it down to about 5 bee yards and keep it a little bit more. And Laurel's homeschooling the kids a lot more. They've got 2 kids homeschooled now. Jimmy's in school. Um, and we've been teaching him stuff. He's only 6, but we've been teaching him stuff since he was 3. I mean, he's killer at math and starting to read a good bit. So they're doing fine, but it takes a lot of time. So a lot of times I find myself out in the bee yard by myself, and yeah. So the conference takes up a lot of time. You're exactly right, Ian. You got to keep up on those bees, or they will punish you. And I have been punished in a bee yard this year that I got a little bit behind on. Ooh, sent off some swarms, but we'll survive somehow. It's all good. Yeah, nectar flow does seem to be good here in Middle Tennessee. I think we have a chance of having an excellent year, but you just never know what's going to happen. We've still got a good 4 good weeks of flow left, and a lot could happen in that time period. We could fill up 3 medium supers, 4 medium supers, or we could fill up one. Matt Kirkland, do you produce more honey, nukes, or queens? What's your main focus? Well, we used to do all 3 of those. We don't sell queens anymore. They take more work for the amount of money you get out of them than any of them, and they tie up a lot of resources and time. Nukes is good. We try to produce 200 nukes a year. I won't do that this year, and also, well, I say that, but we're planning on selling off some singles, um, and that just to kind of reduce the colonies that we have, and we do sell honey. I'm gonna drop it down. Last year we did really good, but I'm gonna try to drop down where my goal is now, just to produce 10,000 pounds of honey a year. So that's my goal from here going forward. And just because the conference is taking so much of my time, the YouTube's taking so much of my time now. Um, and Laurel's not able to help me out as much. But when the kids get a little bit older, or if I decide to go an employee route, which I don't know if I want to do that, we'll look into maybe a little bit more. But that for right now, 10,000 pounds. My goal is 10,000 pounds of honey a year, 200 nukes, run the best beekeeping conference that I can. Pester Ian with all my bad jokes, discover more stuff in the beekeeping world and share it with you on YouTube, and try not to pull all my hair out. Hmm. Mr. Ed, is that Mr. Ed here? Is that guy? It's not even June yet, but I'm already thinking about extracting soon. It's been an awesome year so far, running out of boxes. That's I can tell by all of the exclamation marks that is the Mr. Ed. All right. Well, it's good to hear you having a good flow down there in the deep south. What's your preference, screen or solid bottom boards? Rick, I definitely prefer solids. Screen bottom boards were a huge thing back when I got into beekeeping. It's not that they're bad, but they're weaker. So as far as moving bees around, um, I do like if I can have the option of screen, I do like it for a few months out of the year in summer, but the rest of the year I want solid. So if you can slide in something that's going to cut that airflow off, then that works good. But personally, if I had to choose between open screen throughout the entire year or solid bottom boards, totally solid bottom boards every time. Bees just, I think they perform better. Is a queen soup procedure of a few week old package pretty common? Thanks. Virginia outdoor boys, um, kind of. It depends on where you get them from, and yes, it is semi common. Out of 100 packages of bees, I would expect to have probably 8 to 10 soup procedures, maybe more in pour springs. And then I would expect to have 10 to 15 queens that are kind of duds on top of that. Packaged queens typically aren't the greatest in the world, but you got to keep in mind that a lot of these folks are like, just buy a nuke, just buy a nuke. Most of the nuke producers I know split off bees, buy queens from the package guys who raise queens for their packages and stick them in their nuke. The best queens are the ones you raise yourself, and if you can get some locally made nukes, that's great. But most of the bees in the industry are commercial type queens, and sometimes you'll get a commercial queen that's killer. So it's not necessarily the genetics that are always bad, sometimes it's the quality of the queens that are bad. What type of queen do you prefer? Trying Caucasians for the first time this year, any thoughts? Hey, DC Films, I've never tried a really, a Caucasian queen or anything like that, so I can't tell you about those. And I can tell you about a lot about Italians and carnies, and not all of them are created equal. I've had some Italians that were awesome, had some Italians that were terrible in every sense of either production or aggressive behavior. Some Italians just act like you're not even there. Um, some Italians are very bad about just going through resources. Some Italians are a little bit more frugal. Some carnies are almost like an Italian, and they just don't know how to manage their resources, and some of them are sluggish. I do tend to prefer carnies a little bit more than Italians, but I like both of those bees. I think you can do very well with Italians and carnies. Carnies just carnies tend to be more frugal, and that can be of great benefit in areas, especially that have sharp flows and long dearths where you need to have conservative bees to hold on to resources. Lindsay Homestead Farms, Cayman, are the honey show ribbons going to be great like last year's conference? Totally. We are going to keep buying those American made ribbons from Hodges. They're made in Missouri, very high quality ribbon. They do cost probably 3 times more than the Chinese crap that's on Amazon. However, you guys are bringing in real honey, and I mean, it's American made honey, American made conference should be American made ribbons, and they're good ribbons. We want to turn our honey show, and we're working devilishly this year to make it a honey show that's worthy of the amount of people that will be coming. Likely 1,500 or more people this year. So that's pretty exciting. We're also I keep underestimating this, but I'm going to say 7 semi loads of product that we'll have at the conference this year. Probably more than that. So the honey show needs to be on par with the rest of what we have. And the honey show, we're going to be bringing in a lot more categories, crystallized honey, um, more wax categories, probably flavored categories, maybe even some bread categories and comb, honey frame categories. Hoping to get some international. We've got some people from out of country coming in, hoping they can bring honey and enter that in the competition and have some international honey available as well. So I'm totally going to have those amazing ribbons. Cayman, do you know anything about Russians? Looks like I'm going to be able to start my apiary here in the Northwest within a few. So, um, Russian bees can be pretty good. I would be cautious with any of the Russian hybrids you see online. As far as I understand it, and from what little research I've done, really you want to go with the Russian bee breeders program. You want to get them from them. A lot of the Russian hybrids and stuff are really just they're not really Russians. So if you're going to get Russians, you probably need to do it right. They're even more conservative. They're basically a carny, an offshoot of carny. They're still the same type of bee. It's just they spent time in Russia with certain conditions, and they're very conservative. And if you don't already, DC and his bees, follow Gus Mitchell on YouTube. He has Russian breeder queens and is in the Russian breeder program Dealio, and he can talk to you a whole lot more about that. But um, I have very little knowledge on Russian queens, and he makes them work very good for him. And Gus is I've recommended Gus channel, and I'm very reluctant to recommend channels unless I think it will help you guys out. And so if you have not, go say hi to Gus Mitchell. I'm going to type it down here. He does a lot of things that I don't do. He's helped me out over the last 14 years that I've known Gus, and we've been a big help to each other over the year. And beekeepers have to help each other out, let me tell you. So I've written his name down here and just typed it down below. You can go see his channel if you'd like to. Hmm. So, one thing I wanted to say again, I said towards the beginning, we're going to have a live chat next week that's going to be unlike any live chat we've had before. Um, so it'll be Friday at 7 p.m. Central Time, and you may want to check that out. I think it'll be pretty awesome. Never tried this before. Might be a disaster. So, Ian, if you're still on, so people have been asking me about the Apis Biologics product, and m- you know, I would love to hear more about what you think on the product if you're willing to comment. I talked to Andrew, and he seems like a really level-headed guy. Wow, look at that hair right there. That's nice. Um, and I'd like to hear more about what you think about the Apis Biologics product. And most of our feed supplements on the market right now, I think, are just sort of stimulants. And this product seems to be more devoted towards mimicking nectar, which is exciting because nectar is some good stuff for our bees. Yeah, Gus Mitchell at Crane's Nest Apiary. That's right, John Smith. Cayman, so what's different for the live chat next Friday? I can't tell you that, Don. It's a surprise. You can't spoil it. Yeah, there's tomorrow night there's a lunar eclipse, or also known as the blood moon, tomorrow night. That if it's clear, that'll be interesting to see. Hmm. So Russians produce really good, just temperamental. Have transitioned over to carnies and Italians. They seem to do rather well. Yeah, I had some Russians from the Russia bee program a while back. I had 30 of them. The ones that I received, I have to admit, the guy that I got them from was extremely sketchy, and yeah, he was a con artist. And the nukes that I got from him, he put me off. This was years ago, so this was back 15 years ago. I'd say I was about, yeah, 5 or 6 years into beekeeping. I ordered 30 Russian nukes from the bee breeders, and this guy was in South Carolina, drove all the way out there, and he put me off, and he put me off. I was supposed to get those bees in late April, and then he put me off till, I mean, it was almost June, or maybe it was the first week of June when I got them, but I already, at that point, it was too late to get anything else. He really, our flow was completely over by the time I got those bees. It was an epic disaster, and but I didn't know better. I should have demanded my money back. I bet he wouldn't have given it to me anyways, on my deposit. Um, but then I get those bees, and within a month, like 20% of them are dead. And the nukes have like maybe 3 frames worth of bees in each one. The guy was a total sham. When we sell our nukes, our biggest concern is them overheating because they're so strong, and that's the way they should be. Not to the point they're overheating, but they need to be strong for sure. Yeah, I think you're right, Ian. The clover probably would have worked better, but it came up really good, and all the bare spots, the canola came up really good. It was nice and thick. My And we have a very mild winter here, and I know they overwinter in places, that are pretty cool. So I'm just thinking, I'm pretty sure the deer just wore it out. The deer are out in those fields all the time, and this was probably just awesome nutrition. And between that and all the competition we have in our hay fields, I just don't think it was just up to it. But live and learn. Oh well, now I know. Do you bring in bees to prevent inbreeding? Yes, I do. I purchase bees occasionally. I purchased some from Chris Warner last year, and got some from Michael Palmer the year before. And I've tried a bunch of other stuff over the years, and I got some buddies here in Tennessee. I get some queens from periodically. Most of them don't make the cut, but I've had some Michael Palmer's queens. I had a Michael Palmer queen that lasted into her fourth season. Ooh, what a gal! And then she raised a daughter, and there was 2 queens in their lane at the same time. Yeah, that was a queen right there. And, I got like 100 and something daughters off of her. So that's still in the lines. And, the queens here, we don't have like a crazy, crazy system of breeding. First of all, EFB chalk brood is not tolerated. You have even a little bit of a decent amount of it, you're out of the program. If you're aggressive, you're out of the program. If anything even looks slightly questionable, you're out of the program. And after doing that over like 300 colonies, you're only left with a few, but that's okay. And then those few get put into they get marked down, and then they're tracked. So it's a multi-year program. So from the first year, we watch them, and then they have to produce 2 years because we're going for longevity. Most of my operation gets queened every year, requeened every year, but our breeder queens are allowed to last and last and last because we definitely want to breed for longevity. But there are advantages to keeping young queens in an operation, especially the further south that you are, the better it is to have younger queens. And maybe it's important. I'm sure it's important up north too, but our queens lay in the south a lot more than they do up in the north, just longer seasons, um, especially if you're like Florida or Southern Alabama. Hey, fellow Tennessean, thanks for watching our videos. I'm Sid Mile Per Hour, or whatever your handle is. And thanks for watching our videos. Oh, yeah, does it? Well, you would know probably better than anybody about that, Ian. So, did you comment about the Apis Biologics up above, or not? I maybe you don't want to. That's fine, but it's kind of the new product on the block, and we're all curious. Melanie Cruz, how many were at this year's conference? If you count the staff and the vendors and everything, we were like at 1,000 people. But as far as attendees, it was like 900. So pretty good. Honestly, we had a lot of people back out last minute, either due to the snowy weather. Um, we had some people back out, a lot of people back out due to COVID concerns. And I'm sure some of those were legit, and some of those were people flaking out and using it as an excuse, because it's impossible that many people had COVID in the last 3 days. It was. We'll be changing our policy on refunds. It was a nightmare. I had so much. Laura and I had so much work to do after the conference, but you live and you learn. With COVID, we tried to be very lenient and forgiving because there were some issues, and we wanted to be very forgiving on reimbursements. But we definitely didn't take care of ourselves, and this year we will. You will have up until December 25th to get a reimbursement. After December 25th, there will be no reimbursement. Call it unfair or hard nosed, but we spent weeks after the conference following up stuff that time that we did not have. We don't have staff or anything to do this for us. And some people say, well, get staff, and maybe we should, but that's part of the reason we're able to keep the prices and do some of the things we're able to do is keeping on a shoestring budget as much as we can. Ooh. Oh, Taylor Jarman. Hey, well, thank you very much. Wow, I really appreciate that. And if you have a question, hit me with it, please. It looks like you're out deep sea fishing or something like that, or maybe you're on a lake somewhere. It looks pretty awesome. I got to be honest, I'm not the world's greatest fisherman. I'm good at cleaning fish and eating fish, dynamiting fish, even. Um, but, anyways, if you have any beekeeping questions, I appreciate you coming onto our channel. I'm not sure I've seen you here before, but ask away. So, all right, the Dirt Rooster is on. Yeah, Ian, I'm talking about the Canadian rocket fuel, man. Um, so we've had a lot of we've had Mr. Ed on here, we've had Dirt Rooster, we've had Ian on here, we've had Bruce Jean, Jose was on earlier. We had all kinds of people. What's wrong with dynamiting fish? If you Well, I mean, you can cook them if you do it right. You can cook them and almost clean them all in one shot. It's called efficiency. I mean, a hook is just, where's the fun in that? I've never done it before. She's like, don't, you've never done that. Cayman, what's the minimum amount of frames of drawn comb that should be placed into a new super or brood box to entice the bees into comb building? Into comb building, I am trying to stretch out resources. So, what's the minimum? I don't know what that is. So, Ian, maybe this question, if you don't mind, and have a chance to answer. I know you're busy with probably the last one, but Steven's wanting to know, how if you're kind of stretched out on comb. And I know, like, I put in 2 foundations into my supers, but how much have you stretched yours out? 3, 4 foundations in a super? Um, it's interesting question. And in some place, I mean, if you can buy used comb, so when I spoke with Bob Benny at the Iowa Honey Producers, which was a really cool conference, it's cool mainly because Bob was there. It was also well put together. Don't get me wrong, but it was Bob and I are like the yin and yang. I'm like super energetic, and Bob's just he's kind of chill. So while we were there was guys literally in the vendor area selling honey supers. It was awesome. That's so illegal in Tennessee. It's not even funny. They'd have the beekeeping police out for you. You can't sell honey supers in the state of Tennessee unless they have bees in them and have been inspected. But yeah, they were selling honey supers. If you can buy honey supers, that is a big advantage, and I think it's worth the money. A good medium honey super goes for about $30 from commercial guys, and it'll vary from location to location and the quality of the and the condition of the super. Hey, Taylor Jarman. Thanks for so much for saying that. There's a lot of good channels on YouTube, and so thanks for choosing ours. Appreciate that. We'll try to keep up the good content. So Ian says more than two frames of foundation sure slows them down. That's kind of what I do. That seems like what a lot of the guys do. Um, you don't want to slow them down. So I mean, you can only stretch it so far. So yeah, Scott says, wait, $30 for a super withdrawn comb. Well, you can't find that in Tennessee, but these are mostly in commercial hot spots. We're talking Florida, California, the Dakotas, Texas. You're getting these from commercial guys, and a lot of these guys aren't going to want to sell you in ones and twosies. Um, but if you can get either a group of beekeepers and buy 50 supers or a few hundred, yeah, you can see that you can find those deals. You got to have connections. Hmm. We just had snow and cold weather here in North Pole, Alaska. It's supposed to start warming up tomorrow. Well, bless your heart, John. I hope you get some warm weather. It's about time. It's shoot, it's well into May. We're swimming down here. It's hot. Yeah, sorry about that, Steven. I don't. I think two, maybe three at the most, as far as stretching it goes, because you definitely don't want to slow your bees down, and maybe cause some a lack of getting that nectar up into the supers. Definitely want that going on. Um, do you have any issues with bees in mountain laurel? What are you trying to say, John? Um, my wife is from the mountains, and her name's Laurel. I have problems with the bees sometimes, but never with my wife. Never. Gigglebox. She's over here looking at me, so I have to. I'm like, if all of a sudden the screen goes dark, and you guys call the cops. Ah. Oh, okay. Well, in some places, they're definitely more on those supers. Our Premier Foundation is Premier Foundation any good? I have drawn out about 1,400 sheets of Premier Foundation, and it is really good. I think it's one of the better ones on the market. I've used several thousand more of Man Lake's Right Cell. I've used 3 or 4 thousand acorns or more, and I have used some Pureco. And my favorites are Acorn and Premier. I think they put a generous coat of wax on them. The customer service with both of those companies is really good. Pureco, I've heard good things about them too. The most important thing is the wax coat. I do feel like the Premier Foundation, their heavy wax, which is their single coat, um, it's definitely thicker than Man Lake's single coat, which is right cell. And I also see here's one of the things that I love as well is say Global Patties, Premier Foundation. These companies are not like some of the big box stores where if they stink at one or two things, they can still make money on you off other things. Global Patties literally like makes patties, and that's like almost it. Premier Foundation, by and large, just makes nothing but foundations. They're going to make boxes and frames too here in the future. But if they stink at that and the customer service, then they're out of business fast. So I kind of like buying from companies that specialize because they're a lot more desperate for your business on that specific product, and they I think they put a lot more work into it. That's just my opinion, but ultimately, I've used Pureco, I've used all those products with a good wax coat. It's ready to roll. But Premier is a good foundation, yes. You saw a study that said Global made about the best patty. And the studies change from time to time because there are some variables. Ultra B used to be the best, and they've changed the formula to a degree, and now it's this, or that. Randy Oliver has a thing. He says the best A pollen patty is the one that you feed, and the point is basically you need to feed it when you need to feed it. Um, Even a low quality patty when it needs to be fed is better than no patty. But I will say that the global patties were consumed a lot faster doing side by side with Ultra Bee this coming out of winter this year. And global though can be a little expensive. There's a company right now who is reselling. They get global in, they're reselling it for like almost $5 a pound. Or no, that's a Hive Alive patties, but that's made by Global, and then Hive Alive is added to it, whatever. Um, at our conference, our goal is to have pollen patties from Global for you at a low rate. We'll see if that works. There's another company I'm looking into as well. What's the over under on Laurel's giggles tonight? Well, right now we're definitely over a dozen on the giggle category. I think it's usually a safe bet to bet Laurel's going to give you 20 giggles, especially in a 2 hour and 25-minute window. Yeah, Andrew said it. Right cell does work well. That's Man Lake's foundation. I like to put another coat of wax on it, and I totally agree with that. I think it's a little thin on the wax, but a good wax coat on any of those companies will work good. The only company that I really dodge and don't try to promote is the Dadant Chinese plastic foundation. These other foundations are made here in the U.S. Chinese foundation I don't really like. And the Chinese are known for mixing paraffin with beeswax and putting that on foundation. Now, Dadant may order it and they may coat it themselves. I have no clue. But wax and Chinese, beeswax in Chinese is not very a trustworthy subject. And honey in Chinese is not very trustworthy either, unfortunately. Oh, it just jumped on me. Let's see. Kamon, love the channel. Is it difficult to play mandolin with sausage fingers? I don't know. You tell me. Well, yes, it's actually frustrating because it is a slight handicap. Now I can play and do pretty good, but there are guys or gals that just have longer fingers and they're more narrow, and you can definitely tell that there is some pros to that. However, when it comes to knocking things into place and moving bee equipment around, I am very, very, very thankful to have some muscle on my hands because they're not made for mandolins. They are made for getting stung by bees. And you can see that blood blister right there underneath the fingernail. Yeah, that one felt good. I felt that one all the way down to my toes. Ouch. Yeah, you said it, John. But no, I've never had any issues with bees working mountain laurel here. We don't have much of it. It prefers higher elevation. We do have some in the upper parts of some of the hills here, but it's very little. And the bees don't work it because most of the time when it's blooming, there's so many other good options that are way better. So it's not an issue. It's extremely, extremely rare, even in the mountains. Yeah, Randy Oliver's latest study, I think, did show that Global performed very high. If nothing else, I love the fact that the consumption rate was faster than Ultra B because with small hive beetles, consumption rate is huge. Hmm. We had a colony ball plus killer queen today when we released her from a queen clip after we were done equalizing other hives with some of the colony's frames. Ever have anything like that happen? Yeah, it's really weird when it does happen. It's kind of rare. Um, we had a colony ball and killed our queen today when we released her from the queen clip. Makes me wonder, Wicked, if she was already having some pheromone issues and maybe wasn't too far away from a super seizure event, and you just happened to catch it at the right time. A good queen, they shouldn't treat her like that. She's going right back into her hive. That's probably just you caught a super seizure fixing to happen. Hmm. Oh yeah, I forgot Man Lake has permanent. They're cheaper foundation. Yeah, I don't really like that either, but it'll work. We have cheap foundation at the conference, by the way. Well, it's quality foundation for less. 15% off for any order, and if you get 1,000 sheets, it is 20% off. And So there's bee clubs that last year went in together. Some of them didn't even show up. It's like I've come from this bee club on this part of Tennessee, and no one else from the club can make it. But we pulled in an order for like 1,400 sheets, and we're all gonna split the savings. So keep in mind there's opportunities like that at the conference as well if you plan ahead and work with people, save some money. Came in, thoughts on my mistake, made a two-frame split, fed them almost immediately. Foragers were still present and informed friends of the parent hive robbing commenced. I took away the food. Well, Lawson, it sounds like you have a dearth going on where you're at right there. And the small splits, yeah, you need to have a reduced entrance. Apparently in robbing season, that's kind of why I like the frame feeders. But for a two-frame split, if a frame feeder is really too much, it's too big. I'm imagining you're using a jar feeder. Are you using like an entrance jar feeder? That could be a problem. Kind of a little more details on how you're feeding them. Um, but man, robbing season. Where you at? Will hive most likely supersede a queen by introducing a capped queen cell? Can you requeen this way? Great question. This is kind of a more advanced question and one that's still debated. Some commercial beekeepers actually use this, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you end up with two queens in there. The virgin queen sometimes will go down and kill the old queen, and then hopefully she'll come back from a mating. Sometimes the bees will tear down the cell. If I was going to do that, I would definitely want to have a queen cage, a queen cell protector cage, and that protects that cell more. And then when she emerges out of there, hopefully she'll do her thing. Some guys like it, but the per- the percentage of success compared to like if we're sticking these in mating nukes that are queenless, if you were to get 90% in mating nukes, you're not going to get that in that situation. So I don't know exactly what to tell you on that. I'm not super experienced. I've tried it out a little bit. Unless you have a marked queen in there, it's hard to know sometimes was she actually replaced. I prefer just to either use a double screen and pull some brood up above in the double screen, put a queen cell above and a queen cell below, and do it that way, or just make a split and put a queen cell in that as opposed to running the risk of it not working in that colony. But some commercial guys use that, and some say it doesn't work very good for them, and I don't really know. Yeah, extra wax makes a difference. Some quality wax makes a difference. Some malleable, good quality wax. If it's when you take your fingernails and put it up against foundation, you should feel your nails sink in, even if it's just a slight bit. Bees can actually take a little bit of the excess wax and move it around. When I coat my foundation, though, I don't want to just douse it in wax, but extra wax will help the bees be able to shift it around a little bit more and help them get a little bit of a jump start. Yeah, making those pollen patties is the cheapest way to really do it. They're not quite as you have to do a little bit of work to make them, and you have to pat them out and stuff like that. It's not like buying them and just being able to just throw them in a hive. They're already pre-made up. But what I do love about making my own patties is that they're softer and my bees eat them faster, which again in small hive beetle areas is a big deal. So Scott Collins says, "I'm sorry for asking. When is the conference and how do you get in?" So it is January 6th and 7th as the 2 main days. We're going to have 24 topics. We're gonna have 2 rooms going at once. It's gonna be in Sevierville, Tennessee, so that's 2023, the 6th and 7th, and that Thursday night for the evening only, we're gonna have a meet and greet where you can meet Bob, Randy McCaffrey if you just feel like you're bored, and so many different other, or just meet other beekeepers. It'll be in the vendor area, and they'll be showing their products, demos. This last year, we had a guy who was creaming honey at the conference, and so it was, you could watch it as it was creaming the honey, and then he bottled it there, and you could buy it and take it home and let it set up in your jars. He did an excellent job with his lice and creamer. We had just one company alone bring over $30,000 in extraction equipment, so it'll be in Sevierville, Tennessee again, and it'll be quite interesting. And I'm guessing at this point that we're looking at 60 to 70 vendors that'll be there with 7 semi loads of product. Oh, the website. Sorry. So, how you can find out about the tickets and stuff, go to hivelifeconference.com. I am posting that below. There's not much on the website right now. We will not open up registration until June. The goal right now is June 1st. Talked to my website guy last night. He just had a kid. I told him, he's a beekeeper too. I said, dude, you're just showing how big of a novice you are right now. Because if you were a experienced beekeeper, you plan your kids around bee season. I had my son in October. That's when, if you're a beekeeper, that's when you have your kids. October, November, December, January. You don't have your kids in May. Don't do that. But you live and you learn. I told him to get it right next time. He called me a few words. I won't repeat them. Anyways, so the website should be up, and early registration will save you $10. So early registration should start up in June. Right now, there's not much on the website, but it will be updated very, very soon, and that will be an opportunity to save $10 per ticket on that. And we also are going to have another option that we will be revealing shortly. Laurel's giggly is cracking me up. Can you guys hear her from that far away? I mean, I can hear her really good, but she's like a room and a half over. Hmm. All right. Yeah. KitchenAid mixer is good for making those pollen patties. Do you use special paint to mark the queen? So we use multiple things, and there's the Posca pins out there that are sold by most bee suppliers. There's the pin that Bob Benny's friend Chris Werner uses, and Bob uses, and now I use. Let me grab one real quick. I got all kinds of stuff in here. All right, so here is a Posca couple of pins. Oh, there's one. So right here we have the Posca pins, or who they're made out of country, so I don't know. And they do okay, but they come off the queens quite a bit easier than I'd like. They don't last forever. Sometimes they'll last for a year or so, and sometimes they get off the queens fairly quickly. Even if you let them sit in a cage for quite a while and dry completely, it's not quite as good. Now these pins right here, I like these, and they do a really good job. I also think they mark the queens better. And these are paint markers. They are made, I believe, in California. Yeah, made in the USA. I'm pretty sure they're made in California because it has like 5,000 cancer warnings on it. Because even this cap will cause cancer. Gotta love those California people. This right here is a hive tool made in the USA from Kelly's back in the day. That sucker is really thin. And look at the angle and the bevel on that. Oh my goodness, look at that thing. I know. I'm going to tell the story. Tell the story. This is a hive tool I gave to Laurel before we got married. So, some guys give their girls flowers, chocolates. I gave my wife a hive tool and a subscription to the American Bee Journal. Hey, it works. Maybe guys to try to shake it up a little bit or something. I landed the best business investment of my life. Um, and it's easy on the eyes too. Giggle box. All right, I got other bee stuff in here. What else do I got? Bullets, knives. Ah, and then this is something I'll be trying out here in a video shortly. And this is made by Pierce Beekeeping, also in California. And Pierce has been around since the 40s. And they make this master grafting tool, and it's got this lever on it, and you just push it down, and it's kind of like the Chinese grafting tool, but on steroids, I think. But I've yet to try it. We'll be trying it out very soon, and we'll see. It's more expensive than a cheap Chinese grafting tool, but it's made super well. If it does a good job, then especially for someone who raises a lot of queens, or who just wants to have something that's easier to use, might be a good idea. I mean, you raise a couple queens and it pays for itself. It also comes with a extra tongue on it too, in case the other one gets damaged. I don't know what you'd have to do to damage that thing. You'd have to be doing something you're not supposed to. But the pins. Was there a website on those things? There might be a website. Let's see here. Yep, there it is, California. There's not a website I don't see on there, but the lighting's killing me on this. Sorry about that. I'll probably do a video on it and post a link soon. That's what I'll do. All right. We'll get it out there. They're a lot better. These pins are, and they're very inexpensive. Last time I looked. Okay, getting back down to questions. 60 to 70 vendors. Oh yeah, Ian. I've got right now. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 Canadian vendors coming down, and right now I'm supposed to have 3 Canadian beekeepers coming down that I know of. Etienne said, Etienne, however you say that in Canadian terms. I guess you say A up there, so it'd be ATN. Yeah, that sounds about right for you guys. Um, he's coming down and we talking about pros and cons of insulation, and maybe he'll have more data on the issues with the amoeba affecting bees and stuff like that. It'll be really interesting to see. But yeah, it's going to be pretty crazy. Any lay-ins extractors? Hey, Yvonne, what if you know of any companies that are making lay-ins extractors? And send me a link to them, and I'll give those companies a call and see if I can't get some lay-ins options at our conference. Yeah, I don't know anyone who sells that right off. Maybe Lyson does, but I definitely will look into that. I just need kind of a little bit of a lead on that, where to see them. I will give them a call. Yeah, came and put a sign on the back when the conference is going to be. Well, once the website is up, everything, whether it's the information on the honey show, whether it's who's speaking and what on, discounts on hotels, all the discounts and what's available. It should that the conference website should be able to answer those questions. But you're right. I probably should have something behind me, I suppose. Is Jose back on? All right. Good deal. Hey, Wicked Good. Appreciate you so much donating to our work here and talking about bees and all that kind of thing. If you have any questions, I'll try to give you a wicked good answer. Sorry, this wasn't one of my better jokes. Laurel says she's going to leave a link down below to these pins on Amazon. So maybe watch out for that link. Yeah, we can put a link to the grafting tool here, but if you go to Pierce, they the hot knife video that we did, that was made by Pierce as well. So you can just type in Pierce beekeeping equipment. That'll get it done. Let's see here. piercebeekeeping.com. And they have uncapping tanks, hot knives, all kinds of stuff made in the USA. And they came to our conference last year too. So very thankful to have them there. I'm leaving a link down to Pierce Beekeeping below. And some of their hot knives have been known to last 30 to 40 years. It's pretty crazy. And I have a video on how they work. Pretty impressive. Andrew, thanks for coming on. Thanks so much for being a part of our channel. We'll see you later. Have a good night. Thanks for the video on lighting your smoker. I'm just starting my first year of beekeeping, so I need all the help I can get. Well, for those of you who are new to the channel, let me tell you, if you go to my main page, just Kamon Reynolds YouTube, and it should have options there. There's one of them that says playlists. If you go into that, you can see different fuels that we use for smokers, different ways that we raise queens, different types of splits that we do, product reviews that we've done on different products like Pierce Beekeeping. Sometimes it's a pro, sometimes it's a con, depending on the product. I haven't had anything bad from Pierce yet. But if it was, I would definitely let you know. Now, and then there's stuff on there in small hive beetles, varroa mites, all kinds of stuff. So if you're in a bind and you need some information, a lot of times, I have 500 videos. We just passed 500 videos and 46,000 subscribers. It's really hard to believe, but it is true. So sometimes it can be very difficult to find some of the videos that you want to because they're a year or two back. So if you, we also one thing people often overlook not only is a playlist, but over in the side of the main page, there's like a search engine little thing. You can just type in, pollen patties, and it should pull up all the pollen patty related videos. Is a 5 frame nuke the smallest nuke you can use for queen cell starter if it's packed with nurse bees? It's probably not, Jim, but if you're wanting a decent bit of queens and high quality queens, it might be as low as you want to go. And when I have a 5 frame nuke of for raising queens, there's about 7 frames worth of bees almost in there. This right here. Oh, there you go. And but maybe so. I haven't tried it out yet. I'll have to look at it. Cayman, have you ever heard of anyone using silicone molds to make their own drawn comb? Saw some on Amazon and it looked pretty interesting for new beaks who have no drawn comb. I'm always scared of what's on Amazon because a lot of times the Chinese will knock off stuff off of a real product, and then what they give you is nothing like what you're supposed to get. However, Amazon does have somewhat of a return policy on some things. So maybe so. I do know in Europe, this is something I'm really trying hard to get over here. It's very difficult because it's a long ways away and a lot of money to truck product and then fly it or boat it over here in a shipping container. But they have molds like that over in Europe where you take a certain amount of beeswax and pour it into these molds. And there's an air compressor on some of the fancier ones, and it cools it down really fast. And you make your own wax foundation sheets really quickly. And I just think that's totally awesome. I like using plastic foundation because I need all the time that I can get. And it saves me a lot of time. And a lot of times I buy frames loaded now, but I would love to see that option available here, not only at our conference, but just available to buy in the country. Pierce Beekeeping equipment, go easy on Californians. There's a lot of people in California, and as you know, Anura, I like to pick on everybody. I'm not one of those guys that discriminates against people unequally. I discriminate against everybody the same. So, California people, I make fun of Kentucky folks. Heck, I even make fun of Tennessee people from time to time, and their love for Big Orange. Ugh. That was not a giggle. That was a sneeze. Gesundheit. Yeah, those are some good pens, the Texas Beekeeper. Fingernail polish for marking queens. I guess you could do that. I've never thought about that, Don. So, do you ever just get up and walk away during a podcast? I do that from time to time. Yeah, this isn't really a podcast or even much of a live chat, I suppose. This is just us talking shop on bees, right? Just a bunch of beekeepers shooting the. I guess it wouldn't be the bowl; it'd be the drone. Um, ooh, another bad one. If Ian was on here, I'm sure he'd comment another bad joke. Um, Installed 3 nukes today. First year, spent all winter studying your videos along with Ian Steplers. They took a quarter gallon of feed this afternoon. Thanks for all you do, guys. Are doing good. Thanks, Jeremy, for the feedback. Um, look forward to hearing more about your bees in the future and comments. And um, definitely keep the feed to them when they need it, but don't overfeed them, especially when the flow starts. It's a little bit of a balancing act, and keep ahead of them. Add your next box when they get about 7 frames of bees in there. You definitely want to stay ahead of those bees on getting too compact inside the hive. Some people say 8. I prefer 7. Hey, Chris, I was making fun of you. You know what? You're a big boy. You can handle it. If you're an Ohio State Buckeye fan, I imagine you get picked on a lot. So you have to deal with these kind of things all the time. Nobody likes you guys. Saltwater pools are very attractive to bees. How do you keep bees out of the pool? I have a water source that runs year round 200 feet from the hives. They just do it. I mean, I have one of my best bee yards. Thank goodness the farmer's very sympathetic, but he's got a pool and there's a large creek in front. The river is about 3/4 of a mile away. There's a pond right behind the hives, and then a swimming pool further away than the creek and the pond, and in between the river and the bees. And they get in this pool all the time. They love the minerals that are in there, and bees do just weird stuff. I mean, there'll be some working in nasty pond water and muddy puddles, and then some working out of pools. They probably know something we don't. Who knows? What languages does your parents speak? Interesting question. Sometimes we try to speak English. Occasionally, we do. We speak. Depends on which parent. My dad's from Alabama, so fluent in Southern and a little bit of Hoosier. Every now and then English. My septic was overflowing once the bees were digging it. Nice. Cayman, if you're part Irish, shouldn't you be a Notre Dame fan? I'm not that much Irish. Not that much Irish. Definitely not. More Scottish than Irish, John. Mick Reynolds. I'm sure I just botched that. We got a lot of all kinds of stuff. You just made a post on B Source. I wonder if you could just insert a sheet of foundation before closing it up to draw your own comb. Hmm. Maybe. I think you have to do something a little bit. I don't know. You'd have to have a crazy setup, I think, because wax has to be thin and and it's pretty fragile. I don't know. It takes some more engineering than I have the capability of. T Hill, Tony. Hey, Bohemia Bees. I've been seeing you on here. I meant to say hello. Well, everybody, I told Laurel I try to keep it an hour and a half. We're working almost to 3 hours. I am going to take a break tonight for an hour or so and rest up my voice so I can speak at the Nashville Area Beekeepers Association tomorrow. If you happen to be around Nashville, it is available to attend, and I will be speaking there on 7 different ways to split bees, and that should be quite a bit of fun. And that's actually something that I plan on doing this year is actually speaking at my own conference. Not a lot, but I think we'll do less of the panels. We'll still have round tables at the end of the conference, but I think we'll focus a little bit more on individual lectures, which will be good. Tried a thing or two out last year, and I think I'll do at least one full class, maybe two. I definitely plan on having one for the kids that are being sponsored, and because I definitely have words that I would like to share with them on starting up small hobby and sideline businesses and maybe future businesses. And there's a whole lot more to running a beekeeping business than just keeping bees. And there's a lot of tidbits that kids need to hear, and probably a lot of them have good parents, I hope, and they probably hear it from their parents. I know kids like Natalie do. They hear it probably more often than they'd like, but they definitely need it. But hopefully, we can help these kids out get started in beekeeping. There's a couple people that I know that are my age that started really young in their teens too, and it's so much easier when you start young, and they have a lot of opportunities to innovate and be creators for the industry. So excited to be involved with more young people at the next conference and to see them there. So thanks everybody for your time tonight. You guys are awesome. It's always fun getting to talk bees with you. This is one of my favorite parts of the YouTube channel. And you all take care. God bless. And we'll see you in the next live chat Friday at 7 p.m. next week, where we'll have a very unique live chat. See you then.